We're also doing a hybrid meeting. And I know that you have now connected. Kukona members wako kwa mtandao such that you are able to proceed together. And with that view, I will request Bonabote. Bonabote will give us a short devotion. Then from there, we are able to get the order of the business for today.
Mjabo, Bwana asifiwe, tuko wazima. Ningetaka nichukue fursa hii niwakaribishe nyote katika mkutano wetu wa leo. Tukijua ya kwamba ni majaliwa yake Mwenyezi Mungu tukaweza kukutana ili tuweze kujadiliana mambo tofauti tofauti ambayo inahusu ushirika wetu. Kama vile kiongozi amesema, kuna mambo mawili tungetaka tujadiliane kabla tujaingia katika kazi ile ambayo imetuleta siku ya leo. Kwa sababu sasa ushirika wetu tuweka katika nanga za imani ya Biblia. Na hata ingawa kuna wale ambao hawana hiyo imani, tuko na ile ethics ambayo inatuongoza. Na ningetaka nitafsiri kidogo kuhusu mtu mmoja alikuwa anaitwa Noa. Alipoambiwa ujenge Sabina ili uweze kujiokoa na uokoe hata wanyama wale wengine. Wale walikuwa wanamuangalia, walikuwa wanaona mzee mwenda wazimu. Walikuwa wanafikiria hata kama kukinyesha kama vile kulinyesha usiku. Mvua ilinyesha siku 40, lakini walikuwa wanasema kuna milima, tutajiokoa. Lakini Noa alikuwa anajua kuna mbele kuna maisha. Kuna tarajio alikuwa nalo. Na ndiposa hata wakati aliambiwa njenge Sabina, alijenga kulingana na ratiba ile Mungu alikuwa amemweka. Na akajenga na ikajengeka. Na hilo ndilo liliokoa Noa na hata wale wanyama wote ambao waliingiza katika Sabina. Wale ambao walikuwa wanaona ni kama kazi ya upuzi waliangamia. Nasi tumekutana siku ya leo. Tuna ushirika wetu. Na huu ushirika sio wa wale wako nje. Ni wetu sisi sote. Ni lazima tuutunze tukijua tuna siku yetu ya kesho. Kama vile Noa alikuwa anajenga na anaenda sambamba na mkataba wa Mungu. Nasi tukishikana. Wale wahenga wanasemanga, the people who reason together stays together. We can differ in opinion, but always agreed on principles. Kuna yale mambo ambayo imetuleta siku ya leo, na ningetaka tuwe na lengo moja. Kama vile Noa alikuwa na lengo moja, kutengeneza na kuunda ile chombo ambacho kiliweza kuwaokoa yeye na familia yake. Wewe uko na akaunti yako ambao unaweka pesa zako, biashara zako zote unaziweka hapa. Ungetaka kuona kazi yako ikizama. Ungetaka kuona kazi yako ikizambaratika. Tunataka sisi sote tuweze kuinuka kama yale mashirika mengine. Ndiposa hata tukifika mwisho wa mwaka tunaona ile dividend tunalipwa inastahili ile kazi na zile pesa ambazo tumeweka katika ushirika wetu. Kunaweza kuwa na changamoto hapa na pale, lakini changamoto hata nyumbani kule tunamoishi ziko. Na sasa changamoto sio vile unaiona, ni vile utaitatua. Na saa zingine naweza kuwa na mawazo tofauti na yule mwingine, lakini tunapojadiliana na kuangalia mbele yetu na maisha yetu ya leo na kesho, ushirika wetu utaweza kunawili vizuri. Ile miaka ambayo nimekuwa nikihudumu katika huu ushirika, nina hakika ya kwamba tunaposhikana twende pamoja, ushirika wetu utaweza kuinuka na utakaa vizuri. Tumekaa miaka mingi, na kama vile nimesema, changamoto zile ambazo tunaziona sio za kutuharibu, ni changamoto za kutuinua. Tujue hapa tunafanya hivi, tukirekebisha hapa na tuingie katika mpango mwingine, je, kuna makosa gani? Na ukumbuke hata yale mashirika mengine, sio kusema ati wao wanakaa kama wamefika mbinguni. hata wao wako na changamoto kama zile ushirika wetu unaweza kuwa nazo. Kwa hivyo kile wanafanya, wanakaa vizuri, wanakaa pamoja, wanaulizana, wanasemesana, wanakuwa na hata tolerance. Ndiposa sasa kazi iweze kuendelea. Tunajua hata uchumi umedhoofika katika nchi yetu, lakini sasa hiyo itakuwa mwisho wetu. Ndiposa hata wale waliandaa katika mkutano wa leo waliona ni vizuri tuje, we put our hands together, tuone vile tunaweza kuinua na kuendelea mbele ili tusije tukazama. Sabina ingali inasafiri. Lengo letu ni kutuokoa. Ndiposa ushirika wetu uweze kunawili. Kwa hayo machache ningetaka tuombe ndiposa tuanze mkutano wetu wa leo. Tunaomba. Baba yetu wa mbinguni, tutasogea mbele ya kiti chako cha enzi asubuhi ya leo. Tumeona ukitenda kazi nzuri katika maisha yetu, hata ukatupatia afya nzuri kila mmoja aliyoko katika kikao hiki. Tumeona umetuokoa, bali tukikumbuka ya kwamba kuna wale tulianza safari na wao lakini hawapo, na sisi tupo. Umetupatia jukumu la kuweza kutengeneza na kurekebisha maisha yetu. Ndiposa unapotuangalia unatubariki, maana panapo mnunguniko wa maneno hakuna maendeleo inaweza kuendelea. Tupatie ujasiri, tupatie moyo wa kuangalia na kutunza yale ambayo umetuwekea mikononi mwetu. Mkutano wetu tuwaukabidhi mikononi mwako Bwana. Wale wote watakapo nena na yale majadiliano ambayo yote tutayafanya, tunaomba mkono wako usioshindwa kaweza kushuka juu yetu. Ndiposa tukitoka hapa tuwe tumetoka tukiwa na lengo moja. Kazi yote ya shetani yote tunaizambaratisha katika jina Yesu Kristo, na tunasema wewe ni Maulana na utakuja na utatuokoa. Ni maombi ya imani katika jina Yesu Kristo aliye Bwana na Mwokozi wetu. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Bote. And as we start our meeting, I would like to elaborate more. And the first thing is about the issue of the utility rooms, the washrooms. Pare kwa stairs, on your left, and you'll get ladies, the utility room for ladies, and also on your right, you will get the utility room for the gents. And in that view, I will take this opportunity to invite our chair or the representative from the chair's office and to do introduction. And as we wait, tutatumia lugha zote. Ile lugha yenye unaelewa tutaitumia. In case of any query, we shall also allow, you can also ask any question in Kikuyu, the language that you are able to understand and comfortable with. Mimi nitatumia Kiswahili and also English, and also for the purposes of those members who are really following us virtually, because today's meeting is a physical and also a hybrid one. And Bwana Chair.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning once again. Ningependa niwakaribisha leo kwa hichi kikao. My name is J.M. Wawero, na ningependa tena kusema Bwana MC, ningependa tunene kwa Kimombo, Kiswahili ama Kikuyu. Ni gani ambayo mnaona tutaweza kuwasiliana? Kiswahili. Bwana facilitator, I know you get a challenge on this one, but equally changanya kidogo if you're able to do that. But let us all be able to understand, because this is very critical for all of us. Ningependa to register the apologies of our able chair, Madam Ruth Kariuki, ambaye angependa kuwa nasi leo, lakini amesema the able team of the management iweze kumrepresent, and I know they are able to do that. I would want niwakaribishe na ningependa at this point wale board members wasimame ndio muweze kuwajua mahali wako. The board members, the supervisory members. Hao ndio wawakilishi wenyu. Ningependa maybe kama angepewa microphone tu, jina, taja jina ndio muweze kuona na kuwasikia.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Miruri, board member.
Habari zenu. Naitwa Jane Jiru, board member.
Good morning. John Waweru Muturi, board member.
Morning. Catherine Wangui, supervisory chair. Karibuni.
Mungu ni mwema na kila wakati. Geoffrey Kuria, board member representing Wagigi.
Good morning, members. My name is Peter Kamweti Karanja, a board member. I represent Derry.
Kama vile nimejitaja Mbote, supervisory secretary.
Hamjambo wote. Mimi naitwa John Juguna. Mimi ndio secretary ya board.
Thank you, team. Equally, I would want to introduce our facilitator for the day, Bwana Eric.
Jumbo members. War is my name, like the prophet. We are not related. I'll be taking you through a few things later on. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. Normally, we tend to forget the MC, who is also the board member, Bwana Kariuki. Wengine wakisimama haukusimama, ni vizuri pia ujiintroduce your members.
Hamjambo tena. Kwa majina ni Geoffrey Kariuki, and I'm a board member representing Derry. At the same time, I chair the finance committee, finance and administration committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would want to acknowledge the presence of our guests. We have the sub-county officer, Bwana Absalom Duati. Wave to the crowd, you'll get a time. Yes, or you can even say hi to them.
Hamjaboni wote. Mi naitwa Absalom Duati, a cooperative officer from Gatudo South. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Absalom. And today we have the director of cooperatives, Madam Janet Salimiel.
Good morning. Good morning once again. My name is Janet Givendo. I'm the county director of cooperatives. We are here, first of all, is to congratulate you for the steps that you have done to move from AGM to ADM. That is a big, big step. So we are here, even as the county, as the government, to ensure that you're doing the right thing and you're following the right procedure, and we are here to guide you. Thank you very much. We'll be here with you, even to see this process come to pass. Count on our support. Thank you very much.
Asanteni. Let's clap for the team, tafadhali. At this time, Bwana Elias, our CEO, please come. We all know our team lead, who is the CEO. Please, salim out.
Good morning, members. Habari zenu. Ushirika uko salama, and us being here today actually underscores that. Once again, karibuni. My name is Elias Mainge. I'm the team leader.
Thank you very much. My name is Ajay Mawero. I'm the vice chair or the naibu. Kwa leo ningesema kwamba MC to observe kidogo time because of tumechelewa kidogo. We were supposed to have started at 9, but we had to observe the quorum. Naona we were 1 hour late, so you can guide us through observing that we finish exactly by 12:31, so we get a health break at that point. Thank you very much. And a sentence and okuja.
Thank you, Bwana vice chair. And because of the essence of time, and the next step is to invite the office of the secretary to take us through the notice convening today's meeting. Bwana Geoffrey.
Thank you, MC. Notice of special general meeting. Notice is hereby given that a special general meeting, SGM, of the members of NRS DT SACCO Society Limited will be held on Friday, 19th of September 2025 at Kilimo Grand Resort near Damacrest in Kambura, commencing at 9 a.m. Agenda: 1. Consideration and adoption of SACCO bylaw amendments. 2. Transition from the annual general meeting, AGM, to the annual delegates meeting, ADM, by order of the management. Thank you and God bless you.
Okay, thank you. Bwana Geoffrey. At this juncture, and we have our invited guest, but before the invited guest comes here before, I'll invite the office of our sub-county cooperative officer, and it's good to say that we had Susan Jologe, who was our sub-county cooperative officer in charge of Kiabu, or in charge of Kikuyu, and he was transferred to the head office. And now, our sub-county cooperative officer is now called Nancy. Nancy now is called Nancy Kagiri. Now Nancy, today, and akona AGM, upande wa Kabete, because she's in charge of Kikuyu and Kabete. But through her office, alituma Bwana Absalom Duati, and Bwana Absalom, this is now your chance, at least to say something.
Okay, thank you, Bwana MC. Nilikuwa nimejitaja naitwa Absalom Duati, na nikasema I'm a cooperative officer, na I'm happy to be here, to be associated with you. La kwanza ni kusema kwa hii mkutano kuna mambo tutapitisha, na unajua mambo ikipitishwa lazima kuwe na representation ya our office, ndio? Because in case of any kukiwa na changamoto fulani, ni ofisi yetu itakuwa referred, isn't it? We are going to do a very important thing today, moving from or migrating from AGM, that is the annual general meeting, ambaye wote ama kuna ile bylaws inasema ni wagapi wanastahili kuja kwa hiyo mkutano. We move to annual delegates meeting. Delegate ni mtu atakuwa anachaguliwa na watu huko mashinani, anakuja kwa niaba ya hao watu kwa hiyo mkutano. Na nikieleza kwa sababu sheria huwa inaombwa pahali pengine pia, like now in our governance system ya Kenya tuko na parliamentary system, si ndio? Na sisi kama wale wametoka area sehemu fulani, tuseme sasa hizi tuko Kikuyu constituency, we are purported ati sisi wote huwa tunaenda bunge kupitisha mambo yetu, but through who? Through the MP, isn't it? Ile kitu yote inasemwa bunge kuhusu Kikuyu, hiyo huwa tunasema sisi tumefanya nini? Tumesema, isn't it? So hiyo representation itakuwa ikisaidia kwa sababu nimeambiwa na CEO we are well over 13,000 members. Getting a how to accommodate 13,000 members, si at all order. Again, kusema ati hao watu wakuja in time, we pass our resolutions, na tufanya mambo ingine, inakuwa na changamoto. So, tutakuwa na resolution yenye tutakuja kupitisha, after being taken through by our facilitator, to migrate from AGM to ADM, na itakuwa voted for. Kuna wale pengine wataipiga, tuone ni wagapi. Kuna wale wataikubali, tujue ni wagapi. Because when we are going to amend these bylaws, kuna form tutakuja kujaza. Na hiyo form ni kuonyesha, in this special general meeting, tujue kama iliitwa within the 15 days. Have we given ample time? Tulipewa muda ya kutosha? Siku 15? Ama tuliambiwa jana na gari ikizunguka? We knew that, isn't it? So, kuna form tutajaza, ionyeshe tuliambiwa about this meeting, na tukapewa notice, na tujajua ni nini tunakuja kufanya, isn't it? So, once we pass that resolution, to end those who are for and against, hiyo ndio itatupea green light ama ruhusa ya ku-amend our bylaws. Now, our bylaws zinatoka Cooperative Societies Act 490 na SACCO Societies Act 2008. Na hizo acts za parliament zinatoka kwa katiba yetu. Si tulipitisha katiba? Kwa hiyo katiba imepeana ruhusa ya kutengeneza acts of parliament. So sheria yote huwa tunatumia katiba yetu, isn't it? Na tukienda hiyo amendment, ndio utasema we are migrating now from this system to this other system. Hatuwezi migrate kabla hatujapitisha hiyo resolution. And what will happen after that resolution, si itakuwa documented by the secretary, isn't it? Inapeana green light ya ku-amend the bylaws. So alongside amending the bylaws, tunaweza sema we can adapt now the annual delegates system, isn't it? Kwa sababu hizi bylaws, unless they are passed by the Commissioner for Cooperative, hazitakuwa effective. Again, we are also going to have kitu inaitwa electoral policy ya kuonyesha NRS. From today is which date? We have migrated from annual general meeting to annual delegates meeting, isn't it? Na hapo ndio tutakuwa tukipitisha mambo yetu. And we will be given time when and where the stations we are going to elect tutaenda kuchagua nini? Watu wenye watafanya nini? Wanatusimamia, isn't it? So, leo ni siku muhimu, and that's why, kwa sababu Nancy hangeweza kuja, I've been called, at least in that place tuone kuna chenye members wamepitisha. Letwanyita na izuwa the hau. Tumeipata wote. Kwa sababu hii sheria tukipitisha, it will be binding for us. Kuna wenye hawaja kuja kwa hii mkutano. Si ni kweli? Mkirudi huko mashinani wataanza kumwambia nini? Ati hiyo sheria mlipitisha si mzuri? Ni nani atakuwa amepitisha? Ni wao ama ni nyinyi? Ni nyinyi, lakini wale ndio wamepitisha zaidi because they never came to defend what they wanted to pass. Ndio? So, wakati sasa itafika hapo kwa sababu tutaongea. Na vyenye ni MC ama ni vice chair alisema hata hiyo swali kama huielewi, uliza na hiyo lugha unaielewa. Si ndio? Onako one Gikuyu. Katiguo. We are going to interpret to you. Hatutaki utoke hapa kama hujaelewa. At we are moving from this to the other one. Kwa sababu hii chama ni ya nani? Si ni yenu. Ile mambo yako yote umefanya kazi, umefanya nini? Vigino yako yote hii hado haliko. And we don't want you. Maybe all your lifetime savings ziko hapa na hujui zinaenda kutekelezwa, zinaenda kumanajiwa namna gani. Isn't it? Because sheria ndio inasema we are going to manage our affairs this way. Isn't it? Kuna vipengele mingi nimeona kwa the amendment of bylaws, na vyenye facilitator atamuelekeza kama kutakuwa na any interpretation, tafadhali inua mkono useme hapo sijaelewa, nataka nielezwe vizuri. I will come to you, I will tell you, I will explain to you like a 3 years old kid. Tuko pamoja? Si unakuaga na katoto kadogo kanakuuliza swali na wewe unaweza ona kama ni kawaida. So you have to tell that person. So hata wewe usitoke hapa kama uko na nini? Na swali. Isn't it? So I think we are going to move on smoothly. Na sidhani ati ni kitu imekuwa ati you are compelled to pass this one. Na kama kuna swali tutaulizana. So langu ni kuwashukuru kwa kuja and let's have an active participation. Hii si mkutano yetu ya pade hii. Ni mkutano yetu si ni yetu wote. Kama kuna kitu hujaelewa ufanya nini? Uulize. Thank you Bwana MC.
Asante Bwana Duati for that thorough explanation. At this juncture, I will invite our County Director for Cooperatives, Madam Janet Kirendo.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. Good morning once again. Good morning. Hamjafurahia? You are not happy? I can see. It's good to be happy. Change is inevitable, is it? And we have to move with the times. Just like my colleague have explained about ADM, from AGM to ADM, the bylaws have to be amended. And it is us, the members, who are to pass those bylaws. So as he has said, please, we are here to support you until the very end. Kama unajua ujaelewa, unize swali. Sawa sawa. We are here to support you until the very end. And what I know about NRS SACCO, they are of good standing. Sindio? Let's first commend the board of the good work that they are doing. Let's appreciate them. They are doing a good job, is it? Yes, they are seeing far for SACCO. So that's a good job that you're doing, the vice chair and the chairman in her absentia. You're doing a good job. You're of good standing. The last time we were here, is it early in the year? For the AGM. I was very happy about your PAR, and I'm hoping next year it will be much better. Yes, so you're doing a good job together with the CEO. Continue with a good job. And now I don't want to talk so much. I want us to go to the next step of being explained for what we are changing and why we are changing, is it? Yes, so without far much ado, let me have a seat and then we can continue to the next session. Thank you very much.
Madam Director Makofi. At this time, I will invite our consultant, Bwana Eric. Eric will take us through, and because you have provided a booklet, just note somewhere, and let us also have an interactive meeting. Thank you, Eric.
Once again, Hamjambo. I think as he's sorting this. Right. So, swali ya kwanza nataka, before I go there, as had been mentioned earlier, Owuor is my name. Owuor Eric Okinda. Pia ukinitumia M-Pesa utaona John. Hizo zote ni jina yangu. And I'm going to be your facilitator today. Nitawapitisha through zile mabadiliko ambayo zinakuja kwa bylaws yenu. Lakini kabla tuzungumzie mabadiliko haya, ni muhimu tujiulize tumefika hapo vipi. It's important for you to understand how have we arrived at this point whereby we are being we are needing to review this document tunaita bylaw yetu. In November 2023, there is a document, a body called SASRA, the SACCO Societies Regulatory Authority ilitoa. Hiyo document inaitwa Guidelines for Good Corporate Governance. So part of the reviews that you will see today is to align yourselves with those guidelines, because jinsi ambavyo sheria ya cooperatives imeandikwa, because you are licensed to do deposit taking, you are supposed to comply with the requirements that come to you from your regulator. So part of what we are doing is we are aligning you with those guidelines. But kuna jambo lingine, kwa sababu if you've been with us long enough, you will know that we were not always a regulated SACCO, but we were operating under a law somewhere. And in fact, that is part of what you document ita capture leo, because you were registered under a certain law which has been mentioned here. You were registered under the Cooperative Societies Act. Simesikia imesemekana hapo Cap 490. So registration yenyu is from the Cooperative Societies Act. Lakini ndio mfanye deposit taking, ndio mfungue FOSA, is under the SACCO Act. So our SACCO is registered under the Cooperative Societies Act, but licensed under the SACCO Act. And therefore, you must comply with both. Now, within the Cooperative Societies Act, you are under the Commissioner for Cooperatives. And the Commissioner can also give you instructions as to how to reasonably structure your governance, so that you have a more efficient way of running your organization. Jinsi ambavyo imesemekana hapa, and you know, sometimes this is can I call it a consequence of growth. So you are going through this process because you have done well, you are growing. Ni kama mtoto akizaliwa, si inafika mahali anaanza kutembea peke yake, alafu anaanza kuenda shule na anaanza kuongea, sivyo? Alafu akiendelea anamaliza shule, anaanza kuishi peke yake. There are milestones at every stage, they are evolving. Na ndio maana leo there was a circular that came from the commissioner. This circular was telling us that, hey, because we have grown, now we are over 5,000 members. We are close to 13, close to 14,000 members. If we were to say we want to hold a meeting to speak to 14,000 people, it is not very easy. Because sometimes, as you're trying to get ideas from these 14,000 potential people who have come for this meeting, there are some people who will not get a chance. Hawatapata nafasi ya kufanya nini? Ya kujieleza. Kwa hivyo, how do we get a way that we can deal with people in smaller groups? We can make decisions in those smaller groups. Those decisions will be transmitted to this group we are calling the delegates meeting, so that you are not losing control of your organization. But also, interestingly, you also are eligible to be part of the decision-making process as a delegate, potentially as a director. So nobody loses a chance. Hiyo ndio kitu ambayo inafanyika. So there are two aspects that we are going to be tackling today. One is from SASRA. We're dealing with aligning na hizo guidelines za good corporate governance for regulated SACCOs. The other one is from the circular from the Commissioner of Cooperatives, yenye nasema kama membership yetu imepita 5,000, we transition into a delegate system, where we are going to have a minimum 150 and a maximum 500 delegates to help us. And so we are going to go into what all these things mean. But ndio maana nimeweka hii kitu ya ADCA. Because when you're making changes, it is important to carry people along with you. We do not want to be seen that sisi tumeamua tu, ama board imeamua tu, na sasa inawaambia hii ndio vile itakuwa kesho. Remember, we are democratically controlled, sivyo? This decision ultimately must come to a forum like this. But for it to come here, board must create awareness that this is what is going on. Like now, what I'm doing, I'm telling you why. Hopefully, it creates a desire for you to be part of the change, because then you get to have an understanding. But once you have an understanding of how we have arrived here, and we are saying, for instance, that mmefika hapa because it is a symptom that you have grown. And because you have grown, you now need to start behaving like the grown-ups. There are bigger SACCOs than you. And those bigger SACCOs than you, they also don't gather all their 100,000 members to hold a general meeting, isn't it? They call people from their branches, from their zones, and they pick their representatives, and they tell their representatives that when you go there, this is the message we need you to do what? To pass. But more than that, the people who then are the intermediaries, they must also understand that they are part of the ecosystem relaying information in the other direction. So then the question becomes the knowledge. How do you create the knowledge for this transaction? Do you know how we are going to move? That is part of what we'll attempt to tackle today. Then do you have the ability? Many times, ability might speak to the resources. You might want to make changes, but do you have the resources available? Now, resources is not just money. It could be people, it could be equipment, it could be many things. And beyond resources, then do you have the resilience? Because you're going to make a change, we must understand that there will be rules to how we are operating. We don't fall back to the old habits. You know, Kenyans, saa zingine, tunaelewa kwamba ukiingia kwa gari unafaa kufunga mshipi ama ni kukaza mkanda. Lakini siku ile mvua inanyesha na watu wanakanyaga hizo vitu na matope, we forget that rule until the next time there's enforcement. So you don't want to fall back to the old habits. And that means there may be some people who are not here with us today, who are not participating. Because you have the awareness, you have the knowledge, and you understand the ability, then part of what you will need to do is to help us to pass this message to them. So that is basically what happens, because this is showing you that if something is missing, if we don't have the awareness, we are just confused. Tunashanga, naongea hii mambo ya delegates, inamaanisha nini? What exactly is it? Maybe we know what it is, but we don't have the desire. So we just resist. Nasema hiyo kitu hatutaki. And you've seen resistance in this country in many ways. I don't know how many teachers. I've seen something in the newspaper that you have been told to go into some SHA something. And already you can see, if you read the newspaper, teachers are wondering, what is this? If we don't have the knowledge, we are anxious. Because we know we want to make a change, but we're not sure how it is going to happen. Na hiyo mambo yote tutazungumzia leo. Maybe you have the knowledge, but you're not able. And if you're not able to do something, you get frustrated. Unajaribu lakini unaona, kidogo, tunajaribu lakini hatuwezi fika pale. So you get frustrated. And if you do not have reinforcement, you backslide. So we want to make sure that we capture easy process zote: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, na reinforcement. Ili tukitoka hapa leo, kila mtu anaelewa kwamba kwa sababu commissioner alisema tunafaa kuwa tunafanya mambo yetu kwa njia fulani, na sasa pia kuna wakati walisema tunafaa kuwa tunafanya mambo yetu kwa mambo fulani. Tumebadilisha bylaws yetu kuhakikisha kwamba tunafuata sheria za shirika kama hizi. Sawa sawa? Now, yes sir.
Mjambo. Kulingana na vile tumeelezwa pale, ni kama tunasomeshwa na tumesikia vizuri, we have understood. Eti kwamba SACCO huwa inaendeshwa na wale watu wako above sisi. Na sisi kuna vile tulikuwa tunaendelea kutoka mwanzo hapo. Tulikuwa tunakuja AGM kila mwaka na tunaendelea vile tulikuwa tunafanya. Sasa hatukataani na vile inafanyika. Lakini ile kitu nauliza, for those 13,000 members, na tutakuwa tunarepresentiwa na the chosen few, for that maybe the delegates, are we allowed as members, because we have so many branches in our wherever, the SACCO, are we allowed at if you want to meet all SACCOs together or members like to have a meeting together, all of us, whether we have broke the law, kama tumekosea, kwa sababu sisi tulikuwa tumezoea tunakuja general, lakini sasa general imegeuka kuwa delegate sasa, na delegates they are chosen few and we are many. Now let me put the question. Now, are we allowed under the umbrella of our bank, or we are going to be questioned if we plan ourselves as our SACCO, NRS, we plan ourselves that we can meet all of us, all branches together. We discuss the difference that we may arise or may have, so that we can forward it to wherever the delegates who are maybe elected, or they are going to come and harass us because already we have met together. We said we as a government, we have banned all this. We don't want you to do this. That is a question.
Thank you, sir. Your concerns are very well noted. I don't know, are we taking I wish you introduced yourself by name and maybe member number for purposes of the secretariat capturing.
My name is Aaron Parsen, member 9244.
Asante sana. Now, you raise a very good question. Yo swali yako ni mzuri. You are not losing any of your rights as a member. All the rights you have as a member today, you still have them. Actually, one of the things ambazo nitazungumzia leo, even as you go into this structure, kuna vitu ambavyo delegates wanaweza fanya. Zingine, lazima tutakuja kwako kama member. Hiyo ni ya kwanza. Lakini ya pili, SACCO itakuwa ikikuja kwenyu members in your different zones or branches. Alright? Na mnakuwa na kikao just the same way you would have in the annual general meeting in each of your zones, because you might not be a delegate, but you have an idea that is going to help everybody. Sivyo? Now, how do we get to hear that voice? So they will have to be meeting with you in your zone before the ADM. So you will still have that right. But again, kuna swali umeuliza. You can also cause for a meeting to be held. You do not lose those rights. So all the rights you have as a member are still intact. None of them is being interfered with. The only thing that is changing ni jinsi ambavyo tunajipanga. Some of the issues that you might be wondering how we will deal with are going to be in what I'm presenting. So let's just run through it, and then you will see how it has been addressed. Sawa. But your rights are still just yours. Now, bylaw yenu used to say that you are interpreting kulingana na the Cooperative Societies Act and the rules 2004. Kumbuka, nimesema kwamba you are registered under the Cooperative Societies Act, but you are licensed under the SACCO Act. Kwa hivyo lazima tu capture mambo ya the SACCO Act. So that is the first change, which is more or less just realigning with the law. The second thing, we were not talking about gender specifically, but unajua saa zingine unaweza kuwa unasema he, alafu madada wataanza kuuliza, na sasa wanadada watauliza mbona mnasema tu he. There is a connotation that it is just male. So where we refer to one gender, please just understand that it can be either masculine or feminine. All right? So do not feel left out. We are saying that you used to have what is called a special general meeting. But now, because you're going to be using delegates, then we will now refer to it as special delegates meeting. In fact, any reference to general meeting, tunataka tubadilisha ikue delegates meeting, just for purposes of realignment. Then, because in the previous bylaw, the act ilikuwa inazungumzia the Cooperative Societies Act 2004, Since you are a deposit-taking SACCO, in our context, and if you go back to even the first change in 4.1, we were saying the SACCO Societies Act and the Regulations 2010, herein referred to as the Act and the Regulations. So basically, tukisema the Act, nikisema the Act, na maanisha the SACCO Act. But nikitaka kusema the Cooperative Societies Act, I will say it in full. Pili, regulations, non-regulations, we have added the number 2010. That is done very deliberately. Maanake, kuna regulations 2020 pia. If you see what has happened in the cooperative sector, after 2020, kuna SACCO zingine ambazo utaona zinaitwa regulated NWDT. Those ones are under regulations 2020. So we can't say regulations and leave it there because we have to specify which regulations you are under. We have made a change because I know the Cooperative Societies Act is currently being reviewed. We do not know where they'll talk about the tribunal, and therefore we thought there's no need to talk about the specific clause within the Cooperative Societies Act that references the tribunal. We just talk about the tribunal where disputes can be had. Na pale kwa definition of terms, kuna mambo ambayo hayakwa kwa bylaw yenu. Commissioner, common bond, mambo ya co-capital, mambo ya delegates meeting, mambo ya how we define the delegate, mambo ya institutional capital, mambo ya regulations, share capital, na zonal general meeting. Haya yote, we've added them in the definition of terms. So kwa mfano, swali ambayo mwenzetu ameuliza, you're going to have a zonal general meeting. You can cause for a zonal general meeting to be held, and in that zonal general meeting, you can resolve that the delegates must hold a delegates meeting. All right? Kuna objects of the society. Just simple additions to align you to the law. Because we say that we encourage people to save and we want to improve your lives by giving you access to affordable credit. Upate mkopo kwa bei ambayo is not very punitive compared to other financial service providers. But more than that, what else is the SACCO supposed to be trying to do? Na tunasema, one of the objects of joining a SACCO is so that you can improve your knowledge around things to do with savings and proper use of credit. Ili tusiwe tuko kwa cycle ya unachukua loan alafu unatumia hiyo mkopo vibaya. Kwa sababu mwishowe si dawa ya deni ni kulipa. Sivyo? So tunataka tusomeshe watu jinsi ya kutumia mkopo kwa njia nzuri. I think every once in a while mnaweza kuwa mnapata kwamba mnapangiwa siku ya masomo. Some of the topics mnaweza kuwa mnapitishwa ni mambo kama personal finance management na mambo kama hayo. I think some of those messages actually, the more mature people in our demographic, you need to help us because you have seen many things. So help us young people understand these sorts of topics. But also, one of the other objects ni apply hii principle ya cooperation among cooperatives. We are not operating in an island. Sometimes we will go to places to benchmark. Sometimes people will come to benchmark with us. Sometimes there are things that other players in the cooperative sector require that we participate and we assist them. Sometimes we learn from each other. So that is part of the objects that I noticed was not in your bylaws, and we're just adding to align it. Then, the next change is around eligibility. Remember, we are growing, and we are saying we hope to continue to grow. A SACCO exists in a community. And a SACCO is strong when it has many people who are saving, who are borrowing, and who are repaying. Kama SACCO iko na watu wachache, saa zingine kuna shida tunaanza kuona kwa sababu ikifika wakati wa kuchukua mkopo, kuna watu ambao wanaitwa guarantors. Kama members ni wachache, kupata guarantors ni kazi ngumu. So, the board is recommending that you expand, all right? And so, you open the common bond if you refer somebody to the society. So if you know someone who can potentially be our member, you're encouraged. And I think within your strategy document, for instance, there might be some sort of incentive. Ukuleta watu. So Those are things that you need to look at, but basically the common bond is being expanded to allow for you to do referrals. Kuna mambo ya admission to membership. So wakati mtu anaingia SACCO, what do we do? And this is the change. We are saying that rather than saying at least 300 shares of 50 shillings each, hiyo ni nani anaweza piga hesabu? That is 15,000 Kenya shillings. Sivyo? Ukienda kwa mtu mwambie hii NRS ukitaka kuingia, leta 15k kabla tuanze kuongea. Recruitment becomes a bit difficult, isn't it? So, labda wakati mliongeza hii number, ifike hiyo 3,000, you were thinking about growing the organization and giving it muscles. In the market that we are in today, SACCOs are starting to reduce the minimum share capital. Kwa sababu wamegundua kwamba, when you put that number, ikiwe juu, it's becoming a barrier to entry. In our economy today, people are struggling a bit or a lot. And because people are struggling, and the way to come out of those struggles is through cooperatives, you remove barriers to entry to places where people can potentially get what? Access to affordable credit. One of those things, the board is saying, why don't we reduce the qualifying number? Hapa kati yenu, labda nyinyi tayari mshafikisha hiyo 15,000 minimum share capital. Sio mbaya. Ile kitu tunasema, yule ambaye atakuja baadaye, yeye, tukisema 60 shares of 50 bob each. That is how much? 3,000 Kenya shillings, isn't it? So with 3,000 Kenya shillings, somebody can become a member. Tofauti yako na yake ni kwamba, when the SACCO is profitable, na mnazungumzia dividends, wewe kwa sababu shares yako ni mingi, dividends utapata mingi. So minimum tunarudisha 3k. Lakini yeye kwa sababu ataingia baadaye, akitaka kupata dividends mingi kama wewe, pia ajifanye nini? Ajikakamue, afikishe 15, labda hata apitishe. Potentially hapa kati yenu kuna watu ambao walipita 15 wamefikisha hata 100. It is possible. And those people, they enjoy good dividends when you declare a surplus. So this is just to make sure that you remain to be a competitive SACCO in the market. Just to give you an example, there is a very big SACCO in this country. Minimum share capital yao ilikuwa shilingi 50,000. Hii mwaka wamepunguza kutoka 50,000, wamesema kuingia ni shilingi 500. That means if they come to Kikuyu to compete with you, it is easier for them to get members compared to you, isn't it? Na tumesema SACCO is strong when there are many active people. So you reduce the things that potentially will make people not join you and go somewhere else. So that is why the board is recommending that now let us make it easier for us to bring in many more. Because if you look at even the youth, and also if I look inside the room, where are our Gen Z friends? Okay, sometimes it's good to have them, sometimes also they can be stubborn. I know, I interact with them a lot. But how do you encourage these people to join? And I know many of you, you might get to a point where you're thinking, okay, one day I'm going to leave this SACCO thing behind, but who am I going to leave it to? And you want to leave it to somebody who already understands. That person who understands, anaishi na wewe kwa nyumba. So make it easy for them to join so that even as you transfer these legacy things, they get into a space where they know and they understand what is going on. So that is the next change, that we make it easier for people to join. Now, having many people, I know sometimes we start asking, yes, watu wamekuja wengi, but are they reasonable fellows? Na tutafika mahali ambapo tutaanza kuzungumzia mambo kadhaa ya eligibility, so we can weed out the noisemakers from the people who show real commitment. Kuna clause ambayo inazungumzia the rights of a member, haki yako kama mwanachama ama mwanashirika ni nini? This one is brought to you by the guidelines for good corporate governance yenye sasa ilitoa. Ni haki yako kupewa statement yako. At least once a year you should get a free one. What I know the SACCO is trying to do is to make sure that hizi vitu zinaweza patikana electronically. That is where the world is going. But it is good for you to, at least once every year, get to understand. Savings zako zimefika wapi, loan yako imefika wapi, shares yako imefika wapi. What is your standing na SACCO yako? Another thing is you are supposed to understand the full terms and conditions. Utaki mtu akuje afungue account alafu anaanza kushangaa, kuna vitu ambazo sielewi hapa, ni nini inafanyika. Kwa mfano, unajua saa zingine watu wanakosea kati ya shares na deposits. Alafu deposits kuna zile za back office na kuna withdrawable deposits. Ni muhimu uelewe hizi vitu zote wewe kama member. And even for somebody who is being recruited, it is important to explain to them. In fact, if somebody does not understand this, kuna mahali ambapo regulations zinatuambia mambo ya kitu inaitwa consumer protection. Kabla SACCO ianze kuambia fanya hivi na hivi hivi, ni vyema wakuelezee kinagaubaga, this is what you're getting into. So you're supposed to be explained to terms and conditions. Nimeona mahali hapo kuna different savings products. So kama unataka 52-week product, these are the terms and conditions. Kama unataka fixed deposit, hii ndio vile fixed deposit na kuanga. Kama unataka normal loan, hii ndio vile normal loan na kuanga. Kama unataka ya emergency, kama unataka ya school fees, uelewe. Pia lending terms. Tukishaweka savings, mtu atataka kuchukua loan. Ndio upate loan, ni nini inahitajika? Na hii inaguzia pia document nyingine ambayo inaitwa loan policy ama credit policy. Kwa sababu wakati unataka loan, utaambiwa savings yako lazima iwe imefika kiwango fulani, ama tunapeana times so many times. Labda utaambiwa kwamba hii loan ya miaka ama miezi 36 na mambo kama hayo. Ni vyema uelewe what are the lending terms, what is the security, what is the interest rate, how long is the loan, so that you understand what you're getting into. Again, how do we calculate the interest wakati umechukua loan? How do we calculate the dividend? Wakati mnakuwa na AGM, mkiambiwa tunapeana 10%. Hii 10% inapigwa aje? So ni vyema uelewe. In fact, there are places where they say that you're supposed to get a slip that shows you this is exactly how you arrived at this number that you were paid. And also, you are supposed to be given enough time to ask questions. Now, you see stipulation J. If we say we are going to give you enough time, then we must conduct this meeting in a reasonable form. In the sense that, if we tell 14,000 people, you're going to have enough time today to ask questions, and everybody has a question, when will we finish that meeting? It will take forever, isn't it? Potentially. So, it doesn't mean that you don't get enough time anyway, because you're going to have zonal general meetings or branch general meetings. In those meetings, you will have enough time. You will ask all the questions. Because you see, maybe in a big group like this, sauti yako haisikiki. Lakini tukiwa wachache, then everybody gets a chance to do what? To be heard. Now, obligations. There are things that also are expected of you. And here, there was an addition. One, it is your work to make sure hawa watu ambao mmewachagua, whether ni delegates, whether ni directors, whether ni supervisory committee, wale watu ambao mmechagua na pia wale ambao wameajiriwa, you must hold those people accountable. So isikuwe tu ati labda mambo inaenda vibaya na tunasema ni sawa tu. Unajua ubaya yetu wa Kenya, saa zingine mambo ikikuwa ngumu tunasema samehea tu, ni mtu wetu. Lakini si ni pesa yako. You work very hard for your money, isn't it? So we must hold these people what? Accountable. When they are doing badly, we must ask them the difficult questions. All right? Then, if also we find that tumewachagua, kuna jambo ambalo wanafaa kutimiza, whether it's a delegate, whether it's a director, you have chosen somebody. Let us say that you pick a delegate to go and represent you. And then this person is not representing you. They are representing their own interests. Surely that person must. I don't want to start looking like I'm saying some things that are touching on the politics of the day. But if you find you have a board member who is not doing the right thing, if you find you have a delegate who is not doing the right thing, then you can take appropriate action through a resolution to do what? To remove them from office. Sawa sawa? Yes. And also, ni nzuri kabla mkuwe na AGM, angalau mkuwe mmeona hiyo hesabu. Si ati mnafika siku ya mkutano ndio mnapatana na hiyo hesabu hapo. Wakati notice inakuja, at the minimum, tukuwe na statistics, tukuwe na income statement, tukuwe na balance sheet, at the minimum. Let us have an idea of what those arithmetics in the audited accounts are saying before the general meeting. Again, when you sit and you look at those audited accounts, when you open those pages, there's something you need to be checking. Mnafaa kuangalia kama SASRA imepeana hiyo approval ya hizo vitabu. Because the process is like this. Wakati external auditor anafanya kazi yake, akimaliza analeta report kwa board. Ikitoka kwa board na board waseme sawa, hii ndio hesabu tunapeleka, inaenda kwa SASRA. SASRA can say it is okay, they can say it is not okay. If they say it is okay, that is when it is taken to the commissioner, registered, and you have your general meeting. So if the authority has not said that it is fine, and books are brought to you, you know something unprocedural has happened. So one of the things that you can be checking, ama delegate anafaa kuwa anaangalia, ni kwamba zile vitabu ambavyo mnaletewa kwa AGM zimekuwa na seal of approval from the regulator. Sawa sawa? Sijui kama huwa mnaangalia disclosures. Najua saa zingine tunaangalianga tu wakati wa budget sana. But pale baada ya income statement na balance sheet, kuna notes ambazo zinatuambia hey, tulifanya 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Look at those notes, because you might find a few things that don't seem to be in alignment with your thinking as an organization. There are some policies ambazo zinahitajika zitapitishwa na nyinyi nyote. Ukiangalia jinsi ambavyo tunafanya mambo ya cooperatives, kawaida mmezoea kuwa mnapitisha bylaw, sivyo? Lakini beyond the bylaw, there are some documents one has been hinted at here. We are going to approve possibly some things which are going to touch on a document inaitwa election policy. Your election policy pia itapitishwa tu hivi. So there are some things which if you approve, they will feed into that document. Manake ni muhimu wewe kama member ujue jinsi ambavyo huwa tunachagua delegates wetu, directors wetu, supervisory committee yetu. You must know. Then the other thing, there's a document ambayo inaitwa board compensation policy. Our board members, saa zingine tunawatuma mahali, we facilitate them. Saa zingine wanaingia mkutano, there's a sitting allowance. We must pass the document. SASRA now expects that there's going to be a document that details how we pay and what we pay. Hii imetokea kwa sababu kuna SACCO zingine unapata kuna mtu labda hakuwa na shughuli kwa SACCO siku hiyo, na yeye ni official. Anaingia kwa SACCO, anasalimiana, anaambiwa mkubwa, hata kwa sababu umekuja ni mzuri, sign hapa. Alafu anasema sasa kwa sababu nimesign sasa nipe nini? Toa kakitu, nipe transport na mambo kama hayo. That is not supposed to happen. So we are supposed to document what do we pay directors and when do we pay it. All right? So that people do not abuse the offices we have given them. Mambo ya budget, that one I know you are used to doing. But now it's just an addition to make sure that it is captured. Mambo ya holding the board jointly and severally liable if they operate outside the budget. So, kumbuka tumesema mahali hapo kwamba mnafaa kuangalia disclosures zinasema nini. So if you find that these people are operating outside the budget, they must explain to you the circumstances that arose that caused them to do what? To expand beyond budgetary provisions. Maanake budget ambayo inapitishwa ni nyinyi mnapitisha. So kama mmesema tutumie pesa ya kiwango hiki na muone wametumia zaidi ya hapo, lazima muelezwe ni nini ilifanyika. Kwa mfano, it is possible this year you may find that the governance expenditure is likely to be above what you had budgeted for because of this exercise we are having today. So it is important for you to be explained to. There are other things about making sure that the society is not exceeding borrowing power. Huwa mnapitisha borrowing power kwa kila AGM. Haifai kupitisha 25% of the total assets. Na pia, wakati mnataka kuongeza hiyo borrowing power, kumbuka nilisema hesabu zinaenda SASRA kabla ifikie members. So part of the things that you would expect zitaenda SASRA ni the intention ya kuongeza borrowing power. So there must be something to the effect that SASRA does not have an objection kwenye kuongeza borrowing power, because it speaks to them having comfort in your ability to meet your obligations. We are also saying that you are not supposed to incorporate or register a party legal entity. You cannot start a subsidiary. The board cannot start a subsidiary without coming to talk to you, the members. The board cannot start buying shares in an entity without coming to talk to you as the members. So you have control over your institution. If the board operates outside of the budget, we've talked about that. We have talked about making provisions for prescribed statutory reserves. Tunaambiwa kwamba tukitengeneza surplus, tumepiga hesabu yetu na tunapata kumbe there is excess money here, we have made a profit. There are rules as to how the board is supposed to treat that money. Kwa sababu tunaambiwa 20% kuna mahali inafaa kuenda statutory reserve. Licha ya hayo, kuna mambo ambayo sasa imeleta ya capital adequacy. The board must ensure that we are meeting those capital adequacy requirements before they come to talk to you about mambo ya dividends. So all those things are captured. But if they find that you are not meeting those things, then you, the members, must make sure the board have a plan in place that is going to ensure that they meet all those requirements. So those are your obligations. So hatuwezi kuwa tunakuja AGM kusema tu yetu ni kupropose, yetu ni kusecond ipite. Saa zingine najua we might go to an AGM. I've seen places where people just get excited by dividends and elections. Hiyo mambo ingine hawaangaliangi. You must scrutinize so that you keep your board members in check, you hold them accountable. There was a slight change kwa mambo ya unadmitted nominee. It might not be my place, but I will urge you, tafadhali, update the people you have put as your nominees. You don't have to tell them that I have put you. Just update that information. Because we know one day the Lord is going to call us. And when we are called, we do not want to have the people we have left behind fighting unnecessarily. So update those things quietly in your own time, in the presence of witnesses who know that you are in the right frame of mind. But whatever you are updating, bylaw ilikuwa inazungumzia mambo ya shares, but we must talk about deposits. If you are refunding money to somebody, it is the deposits that are going to be transferred, not the share, because share is non-withdrawable. Mambo ya cessation. There was a clause that was not in alignment with the law, because somebody can stop saving or stop contributing, but that person does not stop being a member. That person simply becomes a dormant member, maybe a defaulter. So that was saying that that would stop you from being a member, but that is not in alignment with the law. So we were removing that particular stipulation just to make sure that we continue to comply with what the law is talking about. Transfer of the member share to share capital to another member. So there's a section where that is taken care of. We moved it such that if you get to a point where you have taken all your savings and you transfer all your share capital to another member, then automatically you stop being a member in NRS SACCO. Kuna mambo ya investment of SACCO funds. Hii pia ni clause mpya that we are adding because there is a way in which the board I think there's somebody who introduced himself na akasema he's a member of the finance committee, your treasurer. The treasurer is supposed to make sure that the way the balance sheet is structured must mirror what SASRA expects. So what we've captured in bylaw 27 is about the thresholds or the limits that they are allowed to do, and also we look at what is allowable and what is not allowable. So for instance, they are allowed to invest in securities issued or guaranteed by the government. They can put this money in banks. They can buy shares, stocks. They must give loans to members. In fact, the loans to members is supposed to be the main thing that all the money that comes here is doing. Nataka hii pesa yote mnaeka, kitu ya kwanza tufikirie ni jinsi ambavyo tunaweza kuwapatia loan kwa bei rahisi. They might invest in property for the purposes of SACCO business. So, hii ya property, the SACCO cannot buy land or buildings for speculative purposes, the way other people do. That is the work of housing and investment cooperatives. SACCO means savings and credit. So kitu ya kwanza tunafaa kuwa tunahakikisha ni kwamba mnaweza pata loan kwa bei rahisi. And we are saying that these investments, there are limits that have been set which they should not exceed. Haya. Kuna kitu mpya imekuja kwa sababu wamezungumzia mambo ya delegates. Sasa hawa delegates, how are they distributed? So, first of all, you will have zones or branches. These zones, we have Kikuyu, Wangige, Nderi, Kino, and Dagoretti. And we are saying, in those zones, if you are to have a meeting, there must be 15 days notice. Jinsi tu tumekuwa na 15 days notice for this meeting. So you see, the same thing applies, all right? What was on naweze kanasema, hey, tukuwe na mkutano kesho. Cannot happen that way. People must be given enough time. Kila zone itakuwa na mwenyekiti wake. Kila zone itakuwa na vice chairperson. Na mkiita mkutano kwa zone na mwenyekiti hayuko na naibu wa mwenyekiti hayuko, wale members ambao wako hapo watachagua mtu ambaye atafanya nini? Atachair hiyo mkutano. So you cannot have a situation whereby you are saying now, because the chairperson is not there, this meeting cannot go on. All right? The zone is going to have a secretary. This secretary will take minutes. But sometimes you might find that it is the secretary who was not able to come. If there are 3 or more delegates, one of them will take minutes. And in their absence, any delegate or any member chosen is going to take minutes. So basically, whenever delegates watakutana, whenever members watakutana kwa zone yao, yale mambo yote ambayo watajadiliana, we must have a what? A record, isn't it? Because you don't want Eric to come here and say, we met in Dagoretti, we said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that are very different from what people actually said. And that means at the grassroots level, somebody must take a record of what was discussed. All right? Now, what is the role of those meetings? We are saying those zonal meetings are going to be electing our representatives. So it is like when you're picking your MPs, we have constituencies. You pick the person who's going to elect you. Or when you have your wards, you pick your MCA. Your MCAs are the ones who are going to do what? Represent you at the county. So you are picking the people who will represent you. 2, of course, when you meet, si lazima tuseme, hey, last time tulikutana, tulizungumza nini. So we must confirm the previous meeting, isn't it? The board must bring reports to your zones. So you must look at the report that the board has brought and discuss in detail. Then, those same zones, they express their views and they make resolutions for consideration by the board and the delegates meeting. So you see, your voice is still going to be heard because tutasema sisi kama delegates wa Nderi, hii ndio vile tunaona. So some of those things are direct to the board, some of those things are taken to the ADM, and then all the delegates will adopt. So your ideas are still going to be running this organization. You don't lose any control. Then, during those zonal meetings, the zonal meeting will also make resolutions and forward them to the ADM. So the people in Kino, the people in Deri, the people in Dagoretti, the people in Kikuyu, the people in Wangige, you will be discussing your issues. Na mtasema, sisi kama watu wa Wangige, this is what we are seeing. This is what we are saying. This is our resolution that we are passing to the ADM. That is significant. Manake kuna kazi ya delegates meeting na kuna kazi ya zonal meeting. Kuna mambo mengine ambayo delegates hawakubaliwi kufanya peke yao. Lazima SACCO itarudi kwenyu kama members, and I'm going to get to that. We are saying you must prepare during your zonal meetings presentations by the members of each electoral zone. You must resolve, you must make resolutions, and you must convey your decisions to the ADM. We are going to talk about, at some point, some things which are allowed at, are not allowed at general meeting, must be done at grassroots. So, general meeting, the supreme authority shall be the general meeting of delegates. What I'm saying now, we are going to call the delegates meeting. Now, I captured it like this because there's an issue. The Cooperative Societies Act, the way it was written, it did not talk about certain terminologies. It talks about a general meeting of members or a general meeting of delegates. But the way it is being reviewed, it is going to allow for delegates meeting. So even while we are talking about delegates meeting, general meeting of delegates here, we just align this and call it delegates meeting. To confusion mingi. That is a reasonable way. Now, general meeting or delegates meeting will be the delegates of this SACCO. So we cannot pick delegates from anywhere. It must be the delegates of our SACCO. And we are saying that meeting must be held within 4 months after the end of the year. Manake, by 30th of April, lazima kuwe kumekuwa na ADM. Hiyo inamaanisha, if there is a need to have zonal meetings, those zonal meetings must be held well before 30th of April. So you can expect you will have a very busy first quarter where you'll be having meetings in your different zones, understanding that before 30th of April, you will have the annual delegates meeting. All right? Now, how do we call this meeting? The board can call this meeting. Delegates can call this meeting. And we are saying 110 or 2/3 of the delegates, whichever is less. Kumbuka tumeambiwa, we need to have a minimum 150. If we have 150, what is 2/3 of 150? 100, isn't it? So we will have a certain number of delegates. Let us say that we reach the 150. It means that between 110 and 100, 100 is the lower number. That is just allowing, if you have a situation whereby some people fall off as delegates, maybe they fail to meet eligibility criteria, maybe they leave the SACCO, unfortunately, some people are going to pass on. So if you find that now the number of delegates we have has shrunk and we need to call for a general meeting, the number that is less, between the 110 and the 2/3, is what is going to help us to call for a general, a delegates meeting. The commissioner can also call for a meeting in accordance with the Act. So these are things which are allowed by law. The commissioner can decide that you people at NRS, you need to have a meeting because kuna kitu ambayo nimeona inafanyika na lazima tufanye nini? Tuketi tujadiliane. Now, nani yako na haki? Delegates wako na haki ya kuenda kwa hii delegates meeting. But we must make sure that we facilitate these delegates to be able to participate in this general meeting. And this means we make sure we give adequate notice of the meeting. We give them enough time. We provide the financial statements. We give them copies of the notice and any extracts. We are also saying that where possible, if there's a budget, you must publish a notice in newspapers of wide circulation. Saa zingine mkifungua gazeti mnaona kuna SACCOs ambazo huwa zinaweka hizi vitu kwa gazeti yao. If it is necessary, fine. If it is not necessary, there's no need. But also, you might consider making sure that this notice has been shared electronically or digitally. Siku hizi watu wako na WhatsApp. So notice ni kitu ambayo mnaweza tumiwa. In fact, you might find in your different zones, you'll be creating WhatsApp groups for purposes of branch communication na mambo kama hayo, just to disseminate that kind of information. Wakati wa COVID, kuna mambo ambayo we learned the hard way because we could not hold meetings. Like now, we are having a hybrid meeting. Ordinarily, huwezi kuwa na mkutano ambayo kuna watu wako hapa na wengine wako virtual without the commissioner giving you their blessing if it is not anchored in your bylaw. But I'm told some people have joined us virtually. So now we don't have to all the time we want to hold a virtual meeting at tunarudi kwa commissioner kumwambia we want to hold a meeting and this is the form. We can hold a virtual meeting. It is now anchored in our bylaw. But whenever we are holding a virtual meeting or a hybrid meeting, there are a number of things that you must understand. Ya kwanza, there may be certain things you're told you must take care of. Kwa mfano, how are people going to vote? How are people going to pass resolutions? How are people going to participate? So that it does not become like a press conference. You know, you might go for a meeting and then it is just one-way communication. So you want to make sure that wale watu ambao are joining virtually also have a way of doing what? Communicating, even if it is by text. How are they going to vote and pass resolutions? Mambo kama hayo. Na ya pili, you want to ensure that the board, the CEO, the commissioner's representative, these people are in one room. Ili wasianze kutafutana kwa mtandao. Sasa tuko kwa mkutano, alafu these people are also looking for each other here in the online platform. They need to be in one room so that if you need to have, some housekeeping, they can deal with it quietly. Sometimes you have a hybrid meeting so that unajua watu wanaingianga kwa mtandao and then they don't follow what is happening. So ikifika mahali ya proposer na seconder, those people online have disappeared. So you might have a few people in the room with you for purposes of helping you when you need proposer or seconders, although you also encourage the people who are online to participate as much as possible. Now, notice tumesema siku 15. Honsec anafaa kuhakikisha kwamba we have taken all the necessary steps to make sure that that notice has gone out. Excuse me. And notice inafaa kutuambia ni nini tunakuja kudiscuss kwa hiyo mkutano. So the notice must have the agenda that we're coming to discuss. That is something which I realized was not in your previous bylaw, so we're just adding. Quorum. Because you're transitioning from membership to delegates system, it means quorum now has got to speak to the number of delegates. So we are saying 1/10 or 2/3 of the total number of delegates, whichever is less. Before it was saying 100 or 1/4 of the total number of members. So that is just a change. Kwa kazi ya general meeting, we were saying powers of the general meeting, but now we are talking about the duties of the general meeting. More or less the same, except we are talking about considering minutes, considering resolutions from the zonal meetings, which is an addition. Mnaangalia reports ya board, reports ya commissioner. You're looking at audited accounts. You're looking at how you can deal with surplus. But of course, mkiangalia mambo ya surplus, I said, there's something to do with capital adequacy that you need to consider before you talk about dividends and things of that sort. You look at borrowing power. I've mentioned that in your rights and obligations somewhere. I've talked about indemnity of elected board members. At some point, you're going to talk about things to do with eligibility criteria of the board. So what are those things that we are mentioning there? You appoint auditors. You also elect office bearers. And you determine the maximum borrowing power. So other additions, you're looking at the budget, so income and expenditure estimates. You're looking at bankers and auditors. You're looking at receiving reports and deciding upon, different aspects of the business. Manake, hiyo siku, treasurer akona report yake, supervisory wakona report yao, chairman yukona report yake. You look at things around structure. Kwa mfano, tukisema tunataka kufungua branch nyingine, where do we want to open this branch? So those are discussions that must be made at that meeting. Hapo ndio mnaongea mambo ya honoraria, mambo ya bonuses. Hapo ndio mnazungumzia mambo mengine kuhusiana na hii biashara yetu ya NRS SACCO. But kumbuka nilisema kwamba kuna mambo mengine ambayo hawa delegates hawataachiwa. Lazima members wote mtahusishwa. And this thing might come by way of you discussing in the zones and making a resolution to that effect. Kwa mfano, tukisema kwamba tumechoka, hii SACCO yetu tufunge, kila mtu apewe yake, tuende nyumbani. Hiyo huwezi achia delegates. Kila mtu aulizwe jinsi ambavyo anataka. Tukisema tumeangalia na tumeona kuna SACCO ingine iko hapa karibu na sisi, na badala ya kushindana tushikane mkono. We amalgamate or we merge. Before you do that, the members must agree. Because some people might be willing to join the new entity, some people might not be willing, isn't it? So we cannot trust the delegates to decide by themselves. We must make the decision individually as members, and therefore we must come to you. If we want to change the core business, kwa mfano tumeangalia na tuseme sasa hii mambo ya SACCO tunaona imekuwa ngumu, tubadilishe tukue housing ama tukue investment cooperative. If you're going to change and become that kind of organization, hiyo si ya delegates, hiyo ni ya members wote. If you want to form subsidiary companies or you want to liquidate or wind up a subsidiary company, labda tuseme mkoa mmeanzisha kampuni inafanya biashara ya uchukuzi, transport, alafu mmeweka matatu pale. So we have a Kikuyu transport company that is moving people back and forth between here and Nairobi. And then we say this transport business is not making any sense. Let us close it. It is all the members who will make that decision because they are the owners of that business. All right? And also if you want to buy majority shareholding in some company or some entity so that you take it over, then that is a decision that is made by all the members. It is not left to the delegates. So there are some things ambazo we must involve all of you. It's not for the delegates alone. And it is good for you to know so that if something happens and you did not hear it being mentioned in a zonal meeting, then you must ask some tough questions. Kuna mambo ya voting. How do we vote at zonal meetings and general meetings? So tunasema it is one member, one vote, and you cannot vote by proxy. Nothing changes there. So it doesn't matter how many shares you're holding. It is one member, one vote. Na pia kwa AGM, delegate is one member, one vote, irrespective of shareholding, irrespective of the number of people you're representing. You know, you might come here and say, I'm the one representing many people, therefore my vote must be weighted differently from those who have represented fewer people. No. One member, one vote. That is the cooperative principle. Because we are all equal at the end of the day. Now, you a delegate. What are the things we are looking for? So it's important to discuss because you have eligibility for how somebody becomes a director. But this new position we are calling delegate, how do you qualify or how do you become eligible? Because kuna mtu ambaye atasema hii mambo ya delegate, wacha nijaribu nione kama I can be part of the people representing us, say from Wangige na mambo kama haya. So you need to have been an active member for at least 2 consecutive years. Ndio tusikue na mtu anaingia SACCO leo, kesho anataka kuwa delegate. Hatuelewi, pia sisi hatumuelewi. So tunataka watu ambao wamekuwa wakitembea na sisi kwa muda. Pili, has been charged of any crime involving dishonesty. They cannot be a delegate here. So mtu ambaye amepatikana in court a crime involving dishonesty, fraud, perjury, breach of contract of a licensed financial institution, then we are saying those people, they might not be meeting the Chapter 6 requirements that we need for somebody to lead us. Because if you cannot be trusted with other monies elsewhere, why would we trust you to come and make decisions about our hard-earned savings? Now, we have reduced the minimum share capital. We are proposing a reduction from 15,000 to how much? 3,000. But we say for a delegate, perhaps it is good to you to show dedication and lead by example. So minimum share capital that is proposed is 20, and the minimum savings is 200,000. But these numbers must be by the close of the previous financial year. This year for you might be a bit different because this is the year that you're transitioning. But chances are that what you're going to agree is that even for the people who you're going to elect as your delegates, mtakubaliana when is the cutoff period by which kila mtu lazima akuwe amefikisha nini? Hizi hesabu zimeproposiwa hapa, if you adopt them the way they are written. Then, of course, a defaulter is not a good person to have representing you. Kwa sababu, how do you make decisions about treatment of people's loans when you are part of the people who are not paying their loans? So if you want justice, come with clean hands. So pay your loans on time, don't be a defaulter for you to be eligible as a delegate. But the SACCO inaelewa kwamba saa zingine economy pia inaweza kutufanyia ile kitu na mambo inaweza kuwa ngumu. So they are saying, if you have been in default, yes, but it can't be for more than 90 days within a 1-year period kabla hiyo uchaguzi ya kuwa delegate. So please, make sure your numbers are okay if you are considering becoming a delegate. If you have been adjudged bankrupt, you can't be a delegate. If you are under 25 years of age, again we are saying, we'd like people who have a bit of, a bit of experience in matters finance. If somebody is of unsound mind, of course, we will not consider them. Mtu ambaye akona ofisi at any political level. Now, this is an exclusion also that extends to the directorship. There is just one SACCO in Kenya that I know of where this stipulation of political office does not apply. That SACCO is called Parliamentarian SACCO because all the members in that SACCO own political office. So people who own political office are excluded. That is directly from the Act. Mtu ambaye ametolewa from a public office for disciplinary action, on disciplinary action, again we are saying that that might speak to character and integrity issues, and so we might not consider you as a delegate. If somebody was previously expelled by the board or by the general meeting or by the commissioner or suspended from the board by the authority, mtu ambaye labda sasa walisema this one is not supposed to be in the leadership of any SACCO. Mtu ambaye commissioner alisema huyu tumetoa. So kama ametolewa kwingine, alafu anakuja hapa ati yeye anataka kuwa delegate wetu, because remember it is from the delegates you pick directors. So you don't want to pick somebody who cannot be a director to be a delegate. So we are saying if they have had those issues, then you exclude them at that point of vetting who can be a potential delegate. And also you're saying that at the very minimum, let our delegates have at least KCAC or its equivalent. Because this is a potential director. Actually, every single delegate ni potential director. Kwa hivyo, wakati mnachagua delegate, just make sure you're picking somebody who you would be comfortable if they find their way into directorship. So, uchaguzi wao itafanyika vipi? One, we are saying that from amongst the members of the SACCO, na hii uchaguzi itakuwa inafanyika miaka 3, every 3 years. All right? It's going to be held in central areas in those zones or in those branches. We are saying we want to start with 162 elected delegates. So election of delegates, we will have that document nimesema inaitwa election policy. Number of delegates per zone is going to be reviewed because there's going to be a criteria. The distribution is going to be based on the membership in those zones and things of that sort. So that if one zone is working hard to recruit many members, then that zone can say that we can have a bigger proportion of delegates. Kwa hivyo kama mnataka kuwa wengi kama delegates kwa zone yenu, this is a good time to say recruit, recruit, recruit. And again I say what? Recruit. You know somebody who potentially can become a member of this SACCO. Nakumbuka pale juu, tukizungumzia mambo ya eligibility, we have said that you can second, you can refer somebody. So those members of your family who are not members of this SACCO, bring them on board. When you are many, we are stronger. Again, upon expiry of the 3-year term of the delegates, we give a 15 days notice because we will be working towards electing new delegates. Kumbuka nimesema you'll be having potentially a very busy first quarter of the year. if a delegate resigns, or if, unfortunately, somebody is a delegate and they're called to be with the Lord, then we can have a by-election within 15 days after the expiry of ile notice, provided that you are not 6 months to the election of new delegates, because sometimes it will not make sense to call for a zonal meeting when we have a meeting coming anyway. So let us say, for instance, we have a meeting in 2 months in our zone. So why would we hold a by-election today and then hold another meeting in 2 months? So if it is within 6 months of you holding a meeting, then you might decide, no, there is no need. But otherwise, if you have a shortfall in your delegates because somebody has resigned, somebody has left, somebody has unfortunately been called to be with the Lord, whatever the case may be, if you have a vacant delegate's position and it's more than 6 months between this happening and the next zonal meeting, then you hold a by-election. Saa zingine tunaweza enda kuchagua delegates. Labda mmekuwa wengi lakini watu hawaja qualify. Tuko na delegates lakini hatuja qualify. Tutapata mtu ana qualify kuwa director. Because you will find potentially, I think the qualifications for directors are slightly higher than what we put, the 200,000. So if that happens, we cannot tell those members that you do not get a director. What we will do, or what we are proposing is this. Yes, among us delegates of this zone, let me use Wangigi an example, we have got people who qualify for delegates, lakini hatuna mtu ambaye amefikisha ile ya director. Mtachagua mtu mwenye atakuwa director, lakini yule mtu ambaye mtachagua aelewe kwamba the criteria for directorship lazima atimize mambo hayo yote within 1 year. So that the next time mnakuwa na mkutano, najua okay, all our directors have met the eligibility criteria. So whoever you will choose must work hard kuhakikisha kwamba zile vitu zote ambazo zinahitajika kwa director pia atakuwa amefikisha. Now, delegates wanachaguliwa, pia delegates wanaweza tolewa. So si ati ukishaingia huku sasa tumekwama na wewe. Kuingia mlango ni moja, kutoka milango ni mingi. Kwa mfano, labda umechaguliwa kuwa delegate, tukue na kikao na members waseme kwamba hii qualification ya delegate tunataka kuongeza. So it goes in the different zones. The zones say yes. It goes to the delegates meeting. The delegates approve it. Now, if say tumesema minimum saving a delegate ni how much? 200,000. Ipitishwe ifike 300. If the cut-off date reaches and you are not meeting this minimum, automatically you lose your position. Just the same way these board members, they know. If I don't meet all the criteria, I automatically lose my position. Pili, unaweza tolewa na delegates wenzako. Kwa sababu labda watu wanaenda mahali na wanaona, ai, kuna mtu ambaye anatusumbua kwa mkutano. You know your bylaws allow you to suspend a member. And you confirm the expulsion in a general meeting. So members wenyewe mnaweza sema kuna mtu ambaye anatusumbua. Manake, we are trying to grow NRS SACCO because we are shareholders and owners in that business. Lakini kuna mtu ambaye yeye kila siku anasema SACCO ni mbaya, SACCO ni mbaya, SACCO ni mbaya. Sisi tunajaribu kujenga, yeye anafanya nini? Anabomoa. So kama kuna mtu kama huyo na yeye ndiye amechaguliwa kama delegate, tunaweza sema huyu sasa aende atafute mambo mengine kwingine, aache kutusumbua. Tatu, board can suspend somebody and then that person is expelled by the delegates meeting. So there are many ways that somebody can exit from being a delegate. So don't let anybody tell you that now, because they were chosen as a delegate, they are immune. They must remember that the way for coming in is election. The way for going out is many. There are many ways out of this thing. So because there are more ways out than in, people must be careful when they come into this space, because they must always do what is in the best interests of all the members. Now, tulizungumzia eligibility ya delegate. Nimewaeleza kwamba every delegate is a potential director. So, As an addition to the eligibility criteria ya director, tumeongeza, if you have not been duly elected as a delegate, then hauwezi kuwa director. So you must first be a duly elected delegate for you to become a director. Kama mtaenda kwa zones zenu na mnachagua delegates, kuna wale watu ambao walisimama hapa tukianza mkutano, wamewasalimia, they've said they're representing different zones, mambo kama hayo. Wasipopita kama delegates siku hiyo, hawatakuwa director. So understand it that way. Pili, delegate tulisema over 25, director pia tunasema 25. All level education or its equivalent, and we would like it to at least be a bit computer literate, because there are some things the SACCO is doing where we are using technology to improve the efficiency. And that means sometimes even signing of documents and things like that is happening online. So they want somebody who is able to do these things to make sure that the service delivery to you, the member, is not affected. But an addition, mtu anaweza kuwa anaelewa hii mambo ya SACCO, ifike kiwango cha kwamba kwingine pia amechaguliwa ako kwa board ya hiyo SACCO. Ikiwa hiyo SACCO pia iko licensed ama authorized under SASRA, then either achague kama atakuwa hapa ama atakuwa kule. Mambo ya conflict of interest natokea, and there are so many things that are demanding. Look at it like this. I might be in transport business. And so, which SACCO do we have here for transport? Walokana. Okay? I might be farming. Which SACCO do we have for that? Which one? Sorry? Sigona Farmers. And then I'm a business person in Kikuyu town, and so I'm a member in NRS. Then the people in Walokana, they say, you seem to understand cooperatives more than most of us, isn't it? Sasa, tunaomba ukue kwa board yetu. So I am a board member there because of my transport, and I am a board member, I am in NRS because of my business, isn't it? That is running in Kikuyu town. But if Walokana is also subject to SASRA, then I cannot be a board member here and a board member in Walokana. I have to choose one. So that is where somebody will be told the buchagua kwa sababu Walokana will have its issues, NRS will have its issues. How am I going to split myself? Because sometimes there are subcommittee meetings, there are full board meetings, there are joint meetings, there are annual general meetings. Hizi SACCO mbili zikiweka AGM siku moja. Kama kusema sasa umezaa watoto mapacha, chagua mwenye unapenda kushinda mwingine. Inakuwa ngumu, sivyo? Ni watoto wako wo? Kwa hivyo unaambiwa sasa usikue board member hapa na kule kwingine. You are either a board member with us here or you are a board member in the other SACCO, if it is licensed or authorized under the act. The wording is very clear. Kwa sababu kwa mfano, juzi nimeona kuna kitu imeanza hapa, ilikuwa inaitwa Githunguri Avocado Cooperative. Sindio? Now, that is not a savings and credit. That is a what? A marketing cooperative, isn't it? So you can be a board member there and a board member here. Because that cooperative is not under SASRA. Tunaelewana? You're going to form some things sometimes called a housing cooperative. You can be a board member in the housing and a board member in the SACCO. But if you are in two SACCOs, I hope I'm not losing you. Unajua saa zingine sasa nimeanza kuleta mambo mengi na wapoteza. So another existing savings and credit cooperative, ile ambayo inaleta savings na mnachukua mkopo, licensed or authorized under the act, there is a limit. Alright? Kuna kitu mpya ilikuja. Unajua saa zingine wakati tunachaguana siasa inakuja inakuwa mingi. Na ikishakuwa mingi hivyo, kuna mtu anaweza kuwa hako board, inabidi amevuka ameingia supervisory. Pia saa zingine kuna mtu ako supervisory anavuka anaingia board. Hapo mbeleni ndio mtu atoke supervisory aingie board, tulikuwa tunaambiwa ilikuwa miaka 3. We were not very clear on movement in the opposite direction. Lakini sasa kuna vitu ambavyo vimefanyika. Na sasa ilisema ili mtu atoke board aingie supervisory ama mtu atoke supervisory aingie board, lazima miaka 5 ipite. There was a very specific problem that presented itself with a SACCO somewhere in I think the coastal region, and they said no, we can't have this. So if somebody is in the supervisory committee na anataka kuingia kwa board, uwezi amka tu leo na unasema nimevuka. Kama mtu ako board na anataka kuingia supervisory, ama alikuwa board akatolewa akasema okay, kwa sababu mmenitoa mimi naingia supervisory, uwezi tu kuvuka hivyo, lazima miaka 5. And I think you can see why these things are important, because even if you look at our national politics, we have had some problems where governors transition into Senate, and then as they're trying to do their oversight, some things start to come up that they're supposed to oversight, but they are quiet because they know that they are implicated, isn't it? Yes. So movement in any direction now, the regulator is saying, please, you just wait 5 years before you can do what? You can cross over. Hiyo ni kumaanisha kwamba you guys, wakati mtakuwa mmechaguliwa kama delegates, you will get ideas kukuwa directors. Na nimesema all of you are potential delegates, all of you are potential directors. Choose your poison carefully in the beginning, so that you don't have to feel that you're waiting for how long? For 5 years. Aya, committees. Tuliambiwa kwamba tunaweza kuwa na committees kwa board. So kwa wale watu ambao walisimama, tunakuanga na watu wa credit committee, tuko na committee inaitwa finance and administration, tuko na committee inaitwa audit and risk, na tuko na committee inaitwa education, credit, education, finance, audit. Okay? Wale board members, mkishachagua watu, kuna jinsi ambavyo wanafaa kujipanga. Kawaida, labda nyinyi ikifika AGM mnajuanga imeisha. Lakini kumbuka, hakuna siku mmekuja AGM kasema leo tunachagua mwenyekiti. Nyinyi mnachagua nani? Board members. You do not vote the treasurer, you do not vote the HONSEC, you simply vote a board member. Now you see, that is where this thing now becomes tricky for you. Because you must understand, because every delegate is a potential director. You don't choose who the chairman becomes. Your work, according to the law, is to pick a board member. So you must pick the best person. So that when they go and they sit as these people you have chosen, wakati wanajipanga wanasema sasa wewe utakuwa mwenyekiti, wewe utakuwa naibu wa mwenyekiti, wewe utakuwa honorary secretary, wewe utakuwa treasurer. Haya, tukae kwa subcommittees. Tuelewe kwamba there's a way those committees are supposed to organize themselves. But it is because it doesn't make sense ati kila wakati tukitaka kujadiliana jambo lazima tuite watu 9. We don't have to call 9 people to discuss a loan application. 3 people can make the decision. Those 3 people are going to tell us that this is the criteria that you gave us. We looked at the loans. These are the ones we have approved. These are the ones that potentially have issues. Mambo kama hayo. Now, that means the board delegates some of its duties to those committees. And then, those committees must keep a record of what they are discussing. Because, for instance, you have issues of insurance when it comes to loans. You have issues of finance when it comes to investment. We must understand, did you people talk about this thing at committee level? Right? But we are told that the chairman of the board is not going to sit in any of those committees as a member. I will say it again. The chairman of the board does not sit in any committee as a member. But it is good for the chairman to be sitting with those committees every once in a while. because whenever there are things going on in the SACCO and the commissioner, even the authority, SASRA, want to understand, usually the first people they call is the CEO and the chair. So it means there's a document imetengenezwa inaitwa board charter. Hii board charter ndio inasema jinsi ambavyo board inajipanga, how they've organized for the chairman of the board or the chairperson of the board to be sitting in subcommittees. You might not get to interact with that document directly because that is a document which the board is allowed to come up with and sign and start implementing internally. It does not need AGM approval specifically. Then, nimesema kuna committees 4: credit, finance and admin, education na audit. Hii audit committee inafanya kazi ambayo is similar to ile ya supervisory committee. Tofauti ni kwamba supervisory committee inachaguliwa directly kwa AGM ama sasa kwa ile mtaita annual delegates meeting. Audit committee is from the 9. So wale watu wa audit ambao wanafanya hii mambo ya oversighting, they will not be members of the credit committee and they will also not be members of the finance committee. So that you don't have people oversighting things that they are the same people who presided over. So that is just a matter of how they organize themselves at board level. There's an addition with regard to the duties of the chairman. Hapo mbeleni tukonga nasema kazi ya chairman ni rahisi: to chair the board meeting, to chair the joint meeting with supervisory, to chair the general meeting, and to sign some checks and any other duty. Lakini tumemwongeza mambo kadhaa kwa sababu tunasema this is the person who speaks officially on our behalf. If the chairman has not said it, you treat it as a rumor. Tunaelewana? Now, notice I'm saying chairman, and I know you have a chair lady. Mnakumbuka tukisema mambo ya gender tukianza. So please don't look at me like I am insinuating. So the chairperson is your official spokesperson on policy matters. Day-to-day things and operations, his one is a CEO. But on matters policy, on matters vision, those ones you leave to the chairperson. The chairperson also must make sure that board members are able to participate actively in a board meeting. Hakuna kitu mbaya kama wako kwa mkutano, the 9 of them, and some people are not participating. So the person who is chairing that meeting must give other board members an opportunity to do what? To give their ideas. And this is also the person who makes sure that we are functioning in a manner that makes sense. Our structures are in a way that we are able to efficiently and effectively execute our various mandates, right? This is also the person who sits together with the HONSEC and the CEO to make sure that we can set an agenda for our board meetings, because ultimately they know where it is we are going, and also they provide leadership to the board on our developmental needs. There's a clause that we deleted that was in your bylaw, because we realized that it was somewhat repeated and they could be merged, so that we do not have too much repetition. We didn't want to have a very bulky document. And so the clause in the previous bylaw, ambayo ilikuwa inazungumzia board committees, we deleted because it was merged with a different clause elsewhere. Now, nimesema kuna committees. Finance and administration, credit, education, na audit. There are some things that, because of those guidelines from SASRA, we have had to rewrite the manner in which those committees are doing their duties, just so that they are in compliance with what SASRA expects those committees to do. So it is not necessarily far removed from what they were doing. It is just to make sure that we are in alignment with what the regulator expects of the SACCO, in the sense that SASRA is making it a bit more elaborate, and that's why you're seeing that while before there were 16 duties, now the list has become longer, up to 25. It is just explaining in a lot more detail, because SASRA realized that there are some places where some of the characters that were sitting in some of these committees didn't quite understand the scope and the depth of what is expected of them. So we have aligned it with what SASRA is expecting us to talk about. Audit committee. So we have brought in an addition where we are saying that this committee is going to be consisting of elected members of the board, and you are told that you may at your discretion as an organization have audit. Kumbuka nimesema kwamba ile kazi ambayo hawa watu wanafanya inafanana na ile ya supervisory. Tofauti ni kwamba kwa hawa watu 9 you can have an audit committee among them, and SASRA provided for that. But the Cooperative Societies Act expects that the members elect some 3 people to do what? To sit in supervisory. If the day ever comes that at NRS deposit taking SACCO tuamue kwamba hatutaki kukua na hii group inaitwa audit committee, inamaanisha kwamba wale watu ambao wanaketi kwa supervisory committee, their work must include anything and everything that ordinarily the audit committee was supposed to be doing. Why is this important? Kuna watu ambao wanaitwa external auditor, ambao huwa mnawachagua kwa kila AGM. Sometimes you renew the contract, sometimes you pick a new one, because you're told it's not good to have the same person more than 3 years. Jinsi ambavyo sheria iliandikwa, when we are looking for the external auditor, it is the audit committee that is supposed to give the full board 3 names to bring to you in a general meeting. So what happens if we decide that within the board hatutaki kuwa na audit committee? Inamaanisha hiyo kazi ya kuleta jina 3 kupatia board sasa itafanywa na watu wa supervisory committee. Everything else they do is the same. So it is just this issue of the external auditor. If you have an audit committee, then supervisory committee don't need to be worried about it. But if you decide not to have the audit committee within the board, then the supervisory committee must understand that part of their work is going to be giving the board of directors 3 names of external auditors to take to the annual delegates meeting. Are we together? Kuna watu ambao tumesema ni credit committee. Again, even for them, we are just making more elaborate the duties that they execute so that we align ourselves with what is expected of them, with what the regulator has also provided. So it is not removing anything from them, it is just elaborating what their duties are so that they understand exactly the scope of what they do. Now, the way the regulator expects you to run this business, you know, our elections are what they are. Sometimes when we pick people, they might not necessarily have the technical aspects of some of these committees that they sit in. But that is why the board of directors is expected to have people who are qualified and competent enough at staff level. We have a CEO and we give the CEO a team. And so we have a technical credit committee who can be assisting this credit committee when it comes to looking at your loan applications. I'm sure mkiendanga kwa ofisi, unataka ku-apply loan, kuna watu ambao huwa wanaketi na nyinyi kuzungumza kuhusu hii application yenu. What is it around the amount you are looking for? What is the purpose for the loan? And those sorts of things to gather information. That information is going to be handled by some committee at staff level. Ultimately, your loan form itafika kwa board, and then they do an approval. But those people who are doing the approval at board level, we are saying that they have the technical team helping them. So this is now just giving us details of exactly what they should be looking for, because remember, board members have other things they're doing Monday to Friday. The question is, when they walk into the SACCO, what should they be looking for? And so this just gives, in a bit more detail, what is expected of them. Education committee. Their roles also evolved, because what was realized is that there may be some SACCOs that are not giving the education committees enough to do. In fact, some SACCOs imagine that kazi ya education committee ni kupanga tu education day, kupanga AGM, na kupanga siku ya strategic plan. Lakini kuna mengi zaidi ya hapo. These are the people who are supposed to be helping us to understand what is going on, what are the developments in the cooperative space, all right? Like now, kikao kama hiki, part of what is happening is, this is an initiative of the education committee to understand, wewe kama member unaelewa, tumeambiwa kwamba tunafaa kufanya nini? kuingia delegates. Lakini ni kwa nini? Hili jambo lilitoka wapi? Na ndio maana nimeanza na kuambia there's a circular that has come to us from the Commissioner of Cooperatives, that because we are a certain size, there's a manner in which we need to organize ourselves. So exchange programs, saa zingine pia kuna mambo ya benchmarking. I mentioned that there are certain principles. In fact, in the objects, we talked about cooperation among cooperatives. Watu wanaweza kuja kwetu, wamekuja kusoma. Pia sisi tunaweza enda kwa wengine, tunaenda kusoma huko huwa mambo inaenda namna gani. This thing of learning from each other, the cooperation among the cooperatives and the benchmarking, how watu education committee ndio wanatusaidia. They can help us with regard to looking at areas where we want to do research and understand how to structure our business. There may be some things that are either already going on or might start. Tuseme kwa mfano, a satisfaction survey. If you want to understand how happy you are with any product or any service, if you want to understand whether or not you'd like us to expand our outreach, it is the education committee that will help us. If you see this SACCO doing some things around marketing, all right? Kwa mfano nilikuwa naangalia, sijaona mtu amekuja na t-shirt ya SACCO yetu. Hatuna education committee, fanyeni ile kitu. Make sure, because you want to create visibility, isn't it? The education committee is where this discussion begins, all right? If you want to do things around corporate social responsibility, it is the education committee that is supposed to spearhead those sorts of things. So the education committee is helping us to gather information and to disseminate information. The supervisory committee, pia, we have made it a bit more elaborate. Kuna lile jambo nilisema about miaka 5. Because before, it was if you were in the supervisory, 2 years must pass before you get into the board. Sasa imesema hapana, hiyo mambo tunabadilisha, miaka 5 lazima ipite. So that is just aligning ourselves with the guidelines for good corporate governance. But other things we are adding, it is good for at least one person in the supervisory to have some knowledge of accounting. It is possible, wakati watu wame express interest kuingia kwa hiyo committee, you might not have somebody who does that. But that is why the education committee organizes training for the board, the staff, and the members, so they can take care of it from that level. Another addition, we are saying that sometimes, kwa board, tukikosa quorum, the act allowed us to do kitu inaitwa co-option. Hiyo inamaanisha nini? Tukipata kwamba board members have fallen to below 5. The board is allowed to do co-option, where they look at the members, they see who is eligible, they bring that person into the board, and then in the next general meeting, you either confirm that person or you elect somebody different. For the supervisory committee, wanakuanga watu watatu. Inamaanisha quorum yao ni watu wawili. Lakini je, ikiwa watu wawili wametoka, sasa amebaki mmoja, what do we do? Because it's a bit awkward. So, do we wait for a general meeting? If you have a lot of time between this lack of quorum happening and the next general meeting, then do you allow the one person to co-opt by themselves? So they said no. If you do not have quorum in supervisory, and there is a need for you to fill that vacancy by way of co-option, because again it might not make sense in the short term to hold a general meeting, then the one person in supervisory, together with the board, together they will sit and they will co-opt, and then it will come to the members to do what? To confirm. And if you are unhappy with that person, you say, no, mliko-opt you lakini sisi, tunaenda chagua mtu tofauti. Sawa sawa. So those are the changes to your bylaws. A lot of it, in fact, all of it basically, we are aligning ourselves with the Act. 2 things specifically. 1, guidance notes for good corporate governance from SASRA, and 2, a circular from the Office of the Commissioner. But, like I've said, some of these changes, particularly this transition, ya kuingia delegates, it is a sign that you are growing. I hope this is not going to be the first time you're told you have grown and then you feel bad about it. In fact, we should be celebrating. Watu wangeleta keki tukate tuseme now, somebody somewhere has recognized that we have done what? we have grown. But it's a good thing. It is just part of your journey, and there are many more interesting things to come in future. So I think with regard to mambo ya bylaw ni hayo tu. I want to say asanteni sana. Yeah. MC.
Let's appreciate. Tumpigie makofi. Thank you, Bwana Eric, for your eloquence. At least watu wameelewa. And at this juncture, kwa sababu tumeelezwa kulingana na vile bylaw yetu iko, we require to adopt, we get a proposal in a SACCO such that we go to the next step of questions and answers. Then I hand over back the session to our consultant for any other explanation. The pale mwishowe, we go to the other agenda for adoption and resolutions. Si hapo ni vizuri? Bwana Chair, allow me to get a proposal and a SACCO. Proposal na SACCO inamaanisha kulingana na hii mkataba na kulingana na vile the notice was. It is true indeed that it was presented. That's why we have the sub-county cooperative officer representing the ministry. So we require somebody, I'm able to say, yenyewe, it was presented. Okay, Bwana Gaido. Member number, Bwana Gaido. Gaido Mutora. I may propose. Let us get a SACCO.
My name is Harun Parsen, member number 9244. I second.
Okay, we have adopted the amendment. So at this juncture, tutaenda kipindi ingine. I'll pick 3 questions. If there is any, tunajibu. Then I pick another 3. Ikiwa uko na swali umeandika mahali, usikose kuuliza. This is your day. Kuna mtu ako na swali? Yes, you indicate your member number, your name, because we are recording for minute purposes.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Simon Washira Joki from Dagoretti, member number 11468. First is to commend our today's facilitator, Bwana Eric, umetuelezea vizuri sana. And my question would be, actually I have two. So are there rules that delegates abide to? Maybe within the SACCO or the rules that are provided by SASRA. And my question number 2, now in case where a delegate is suspended from office, they cease being a member of the SACCO. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tupate swali lingine. Another 2 questions, such that I hand over the mic to the facilitator for any clarification. Wacha tuongee. Yes.
Okay, my name is Wilson Waitimo, member number 113209. My question is, at the zone level, who is supposed to call up the meeting? Is it the chairman, or is it the chairman, or who is supposed to call the meeting? Okay, I have a second question. Swali ya pili ni hii. Watu wengine wanachaguliwa bila kujua. Tuseme mtu amechaguliwa kama education committee or a credit supervisory committee. When they are elected, are they supposed to be given or rather to be educated to know exactly the role of the work they are supposed to do?
Thank you, Bwana Waitimo. Yes, the last one from Pasin.
I heard that they were saying when they are electing members, I heard from the leader who was directing us how we are supposed to do, that somebody, if you are elected as a member, and you have a certain crime somewhere, or you have committed something which is not suitable to all members here, how are you going to know that this person has done 1, 2, 3? He is not eligible to be elected, and you are not a CID, you are not. How are you going to know?
Asante Bwana Pasin. Bwana Eric, ni vizuri ujibu.
Thank you, sir. In no particular order, let me begin with you. Chapter 6, see chapter 7. Kuta kitu itafanyika hapa inaitwa vetting. If you are interested, we will ask you to apply. Okay? And you will be given, when the vacancies are announced, you'll also be told that these are the things we expect you to do what? To attach to your application. So kwa mfano wanaweza sema, tuonyeshe help clearance yako. Mimi najua ya CRB inaweza leta tashwishi kidogo. Hata mimi ya CRB ukienda unaweza pata jina yangu iko pale. Because we are humans, isn't it? But we will ask you, kwa mfano, ulete ile ya EACC, those things for DCI, so that we are sure that you are the kind of person we are looking for. So we will know, because we'll ask you to attach some things to your application. By the way, tukisema you need to apply or attach these things, si ati unatuletea ati nimelipa. Bring us the clearance certificate. Tunaelewana? Are we together? You know, I ran into trouble sometime in Western Kenya asking to go pamoja in 2017. So I want to pick my words very carefully. So please, so there's going to be vetting, okay? Possibly this is touching on the next bit, but the next bit is contingent on if you adopt this, because you see, there's going to be mtu anataka kuwa delegate, then they'll apply to be delegates, they'll be told the things to attach, they get to go through a vetting process, and we will be told you have met the criteria or you have not met the criteria, isn't it? At the point of vetting delegates, hii itafanyika CEO na watu wake, the staff. There is a different vetting that happens if you want to become a board member. That one is going to be chaired by the commissioner's office, all right? So we'll tell you that this is what we expect. If you don't meet the criteria, they must write back to you and tell you you have not met criteria and this is why. So kwa mfano, labda tumesema 200,000 ili ukue delegate. Sasa leo uko na 200, but tumesema by the close of the previous financial year, maybe at the end of that financial year ulikuwa na 198. Taambia tu, mkubwa, kila kitu ilikuwa sawa, lakini tulisema ilifaa kuwa 200, na wewe mwaka tukifunga ilikuwa ngapi? Ilikuwa chini ya hiyo 200. So to be fair to everybody, sisi tunachukua watu wa 200 kwenda mbele as of 31st December. Mambo kama hayo. Pili, roles of delegates. Yes? So there are two things that are going to happen, and what you're saying is going to touch on to even your question. Okay? You see the things we have said are the roles or the duties of the general meeting. Those are the things that the delegates must do. But there's going to be another document we are likely to come up with called a membership policy. Here, delegates must be educated as to what is expected of them. Kumbuka sasa tunasema, tumekuchagua ufanye nini? So you're representing some people, which means you cannot come and say, I think. You can come and say, we, the people of Wangige, are thinking. Tunaelewana? You will have your own opinion. By the way, being a delegate can be a very punishing experience, because your ideas can be very different from the ideas of the people who have done what? Who have elected you. But we have chosen you to bring whose ideas? Yeah, so, you know, sometimes we complain because our MPs, they behave badly, because they go and they do some things. Do you remember somebody was told, can we go and vote for some of these things in your constituency? We see what the people will say. So you have been elected to go and represent certain people, isn't it? So you must speak to the aspirations, the desires, and the resolutions of the people you are representing. So delegates lazima watasomeshwa waelezwe what exactly is expected of them. 2, if a delegate is suspected, the nature of the suspension comes into play. You see, you as members, you can decide that you don't want somebody to be your delegate. That is 1. 2, the board might also feel that there is somebody who is disturbing them at this level, and they suspend that person at that level, isn't it? So the nature and the point of suspension is significant because it will determine how we treat that suspension. Kama members wamesema hawanitaki, hiyo mimi sasa natembea na Yesu. Imeisha hapo. Board might suspend me because they don't think that I'm being a good delegate. And if that happens, the board must come to the zone and say, mlitupatia Eric, lakini huyu Eric tunaona hii kazi imemleme, tupatieni tu mtu mwingi, sivyo? But I might also be suspended by the board as an ordinary member because maybe I am a delegate, but I have become dormant. And so the board is saying, okay, this guy who is dormant, tudhani anaezana na ile kitu, or I might do something that the SACCO would suspend an ordinary member for. And again, when that happens, the normal procedure for suspension of members is already captured in your bylaws, whereby suspension does not go beyond 12 months. Suspended members are given a chance to defend themselves. It comes to the apex decision making. What wanaambiwa, we suspended so and so because of this. But if somebody happens to be your delegate, then itakuja kwenyu kwa zonal meeting, mtaelezwa kwamba mko na member ambaye alisuspendiwa because of 1, 2, 3. Okay? So you will always know that somebody has been suspended and this is the reason. Why? Why is this important? Delegate, kama mlichagua mtu kama delegate, inamaanisha that person is potentially very popular, isn't it? Yeah. And if I know I'm popular and I'm being removed, what is the easy thing for me to say? Wametufanya hivi. That is when the Kenyans in us kick in and say, sisi kama watu wa Wangige, tunaona hii SACCO haitupeleki vizuri. Sisi kama watu wa Dagoretti, tunaona kama tunafinywa. So, the SACCO, the board will always explain to you why somebody has been suspended. All right? If at zone level, who calls for the meetings? Members of a zone can call for a meeting in their zone. Because you might feel that there is something pertinent that you'd like to do what? To discuss. That's why I said you don't lose your rights. 2, members of a zone can start agitating that their delegates push for a general meeting to be what? To be discussed. Because you might discuss something in your zone, but it is not the final decision making, isn't it? But you start calling your delegates and telling them, now, us in our zone, we have called for this meeting, we have talked about it, and this is what we think we need to do. Please pass this message on our behalf to the rest of the delegates at the annual delegates meeting. So in your zone, you can call for a meeting. But at the general meeting level, you have delegates who are supposed to organize for the calling of a meeting at that level, okay? So if there are things which indeed we are seeing are in the best interest of this organization, then the delegates will act on our behalf. Our act is very interesting because saa zingine tunaita mkutano, hakuna quorum. Sheria inasema tufanye nini? You postpone to within 30 days. Okay? When that other meeting is happening, if you don't have quorum, tuseme mlisema tunaanza saa 4 asubuhi, you give it 1 hour. Tukifika saa 5 na hakuna quorum, we have our meeting anyway. Because you cannot be held at ransom continuously or in perpetuity by people who are not interested in listening to this thing that is important to you. So don't imagine that now, mahali tumefika, tukitaka kuwe na mkutano au majadiliano, we can't have it. But you have to understand, in your zones, if you want to have a meeting in your zone specifically, all right, you communicate to your delegates, but you also communicate to the office. Because sometimes we abuse the stipulation of having meetings, and then we come and we find that this is a customer care exercise. Ni kitu yenye watu wawili watatu wangeketi, tatua. But if there are weighty things, you are allowed to do what? To call for a meeting. And yes, election of delegate, education. Delegates, if you happen to be elected, you can be sure there will be a day somebody will come and talk to you about the roles of delegates exclusively. And you will be reminded every single day, twice on Sunday, that this is your role as a delegate. The good book says remind them even if they know, isn't it? We will remind you every day as a delegate, this is what we expect. This is what we expect. Hatutaki uchaguliwe ukuwe delegate and then you only show up siku ya AGM. There might be some messages that are leaving the board to reach the members. You may be the channel through which this message is going to pass. So we will always remind you. There are decisions which you make as a delegate which now the ordinary member might not be involved in directly. Like when we are discussing how to pass the budget, isn't it? It is the delegates who determine passing of budget. We have said that the annual delegates meeting is the one that can decide that now we have resolved we want to open a branch in Ruaka, for example. This is where that decision is made, isn't it? So the people who are delegates must understand the role that they play, so that they don't just assume that hao wanakuanga wanaenda mkutano, wanakuja, labda wanalipwa transport na wanasikia vizuri, alafu kidogo they punish somebody by electing somebody out. No. Delegates must understand, and that's why we said part of their role is to hold the board accountable. They must make sure that the people they are picking are people who can move this SACCO forward. By the way, just so you know, in fact, I told the board members that this thing, it has come, understand that you're likely to be the first casualties of whatever is going on here. So don't sit comfortable and imagine that you're a board member, you will always be a board member. It is likely that in 3 years, we'll have very different faces here. And I could see they were uncomfortable. But it is the real. Yes, saa zingine mambo ni one time, saa zingine inaenda mzuri. Tunaenda tu. Bora sisi tuelewe kwamba kazi yetu ni kuishi vizuri na wale ambao wamefanya nini? Wametuchagua. Ukifanya kazi vizuri, tunakupatia ingine ufanye nini? Uendelee. Ukilemewa pia tunakwambia wewe, park gari sisi tuendelee na safari na watu wengine. Sivyo? So that goes for delegates, that goes for the supervisory committee and members of the board. Because you might be elected, you come into the board, but you're not very clear on exactly what it is that you're supposed to do, isn't it? So just because you don't know does not mean that we should punish you. One of the rights of a board member is to be educated once they have been elected. In fact, there's normally a board orientation process so that every board member understands what their specific role is as an official, what the role of their subcommittee is, how their role affects another subcommittee, and basically how we organize ourselves. Because hizi vitu nimesema that we're sitting in subcommittees. Naweza kuwa kwa credit committee mwaka, next year nitakuwa finance, hiyo mwaka ingine nitakuwa education. Sivyo? Let me not find my place in a space that I don't understand what is going on. So it is a right of a board member to be oriented into how the board, to be inducted, that is the word I'm looking for, into how the board operates. So if you happen to be successful in finding yourself in these spaces, you can be sure that the organization will take all the steps to make sure that you are comfortable in executing your mandate. Sawa sawa? Poleni, saa zingine naanza Kiingereza mingi. Nasahau. Uzuri ni nyinyi ndio mlinisomesha. Nilisoma tu karibu na hapa. So mimi ni kijana yenu.
Thank you, Bwana Eric. I'll pick another question. Then on ICT, and we have online members who are following us. Is the time now to put any question online, such that we are able to answer. Even the online members are part of this meeting. So I'm giving them the opportunity to put at least any of the questions such that the consultant may be able to answer. On this part, and for the members who are present, and I will just ask if there is any question. Any other question? I'll pick at least one or two.
Members, I think it's afternoon. Good afternoon, members. I'm Mr. Mboro, and I have heard what Eric has said to us. Actually, this one, going the delegates' way, it gives growth. So I'm supporting it highly. I'm supporting it highly, and we could have done it wrong time, and we could have had so many branches with this delegate system. Now, however, I have some reservations. Like if we go to page 5, I don't know whether it has been existing, but it is coming in, because I know we insure our loans. That one I know. We insure our loans. But now, page 5, number 15, it says, for example, if I die, I like Eric. Eric is saying very well that kufa lazima. So now there is this person who is called an admitted nominee. Now I have seen another SACCO. Somebody went and had not nominated anybody, but the next of kin who came in was given all his money. This one of ours says that if by chance a member joins and has not nominated anybody or something like that, I am not, this word unadmitted, Eric, you can explain to us better. But my understanding is the value of the deceased member's deposits, the money you have deposited, plus interest, it will be given to that person less any sums due. Does it mean if I have like 300,000 deposits and I have a loan of 250,000, they will deduct the 250,000 from the loan, then they give the nominee 50,000. That one I feel it's either coming or I know, or I should be informed about that, because when the insurance is there, the nominee should be given, whether nominated or not, I think should be given everything, because the insurance is there and we pay dearly on the insurance. The other one, members, I have another one. I think I have 3 questions. Let's go to page 7. Page 7. There is a statement there. Page 7, on the right hand, you see there's a Roman 2, Roman 3, Roman 4. Go with me, Roman 5. Then when you, not Roman 5, Roman 6, and then Roman 7. When you're in Roman 7, it is saying, erect zone representatives whose number shall be determined by the board. It can be, I agree. But now this one is challenged, Mr. Eric, by saying that now it should be 110. Meaning, these numbers are already determined as we speak. Because where is the 110 coming from? And I have seen somewhere, I think 162, something like that. So I was of the idea that the members, we should know that where is the 162 coming from? How many are in Kikuyu? How many are in Dagoretti? You know, a starting point. I laid down stone where we are stepping. This is where we are starting. So that members can say yes, or they can give their opinion. I did not understand in the same page, number C. In the same page, C. Down there, just when you omit the word meeting, then you go to 30, meetings. So, conveyance of the resolutions of each electoral zone to the general meeting by the elected delegates of such zones. Utanieleza hiyo. Ndio nipate kuelewa na members pia waelewe. Now, let's go to data 2. That is page 9. That's a typo error. You know, when I read thoroughly sometimes. That's a typo error. So, data 2, you see data 2, then go down A. If you say board of directors of the SACCO society shall, then it should not be ticks. It should be tick. You know, hata ukipresent kitu kwa sasa, waone sisi ni members about tunaelewa hata Kiingereza kidogo. So it should be tick, not ticks. Sorry for that. Let me see. Now, the other thing, I have heard you talk about delegates being removed so many times. Now I was asking, is a board member, cannot a board member be removed from the board? And if the person cannot be removed, what is the amnesty? If the person can be removed as well, so what is the threshold? What's the criteria? Because nimeongea sana ukiongea juu ya delegates, upande ule mwingine wa board kama there is a kind of a reservation. Now, and also, maybe I was late. I did not hear how we are electing the board of directors. Because from the experience I have, the board of directors should come from the delegates to the board, but not the board now dictating to the delegates. Actually, the delegates have the supreme authority, as the way I know it, compared to what the board has. Because now the delegates, members tuelewe hapa, delegates watakuwa na act kwa niaba yetu. From that time, we might not even be coming for AGMs. It is the delegates to be coming for the. Kwa hivyo hapo tuelewe vizuri.
Thank you, Mr. Boro. Another member.
Good afternoon. Mimi naitwa Daniel Kirogo, member number 11622 from Dagoretti. Thank you for the good presentation, our facilitator, and a very good proposal. I had a question, and I think you'll guide me whether I'm overthinking. So on page 12, where we are talking about how a delegate should be elected and shall not be an active member for a consecutive of 2 years. I was asking myself if we are to go and have another zone, how we are going to consider that criteria of the 2 years. The last one of the supervisory committee, I like the fact that you talked about the capacity, and I'm an auditor by profession, and because I've worked on external audit, there's an area we'll need to really think about, the IT and the developments that are going on. I don't know whether that is captured in the bylaws. Now we are moving to the AI. That is an area that, as much as we started so very many years, those are areas that the world is going, and we want NRS to be compliant with the SACCO and all that. So being a supervisory committee and having someone in finance, also the IT capacity, we need to really emphasize on that, because we know that this is where the world is, and this is where NRS is going. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
Thank you. So, Bwana Buru, is it? Yes. Now, the first question is, what happens when we're talking about payment to an unadmitted nominee? Because somebody is going to tell us that if I am called, if I'm promoted to glory, this is how I expect you to do what? To distribute. The first thing that the SACCO is supposed to do is to reach out to these people and try to get them to be members. Okay? That is the first option. There are those who will say, yes, absolutely, I will join. There are those who will say, no, I am not interested. You've mentioned something critical, that the SACCO does have what? Insurance. The contract you have for insurance has got certain conditions. For example, you know you cannot insure for loan default. Yes? If you insure for loan default, the premium becomes expensive, because everybody will borrow and default knowing that insurance will do what? So you cannot insure for loan. So what happens if somebody is an insurer and they are called to be with the Lord? We must have an orderly way of dealing with whatever you have left behind. And that is where we are saying there might be some things you owe us. So if that situation arises, we will take what is ours and we give your nominees what is theirs. Iko sawa. But try as much as possible, dear members. If you know you are behind in your loan repayments, just try to regularize your account. Because nobody knows the time that we will be called. So just make sure that you are up to date, particularly when it comes to loan repayments. If something happens and you are recalled and we have a difficult experience with our insurer, because they might say the condition was that we were covering loans that are performing, isn't it? This member has passed on, but their loan was not performing, a condition for exclusion. And I can assure you, people in insurance, they will look for all reasons not to pay. So if that sort of scenario happens, and that is how that comes up. Now, number of zone reps. We have said we have 162. So we've capped the number. Some zones have more. I think Kikuyu is the biggest. Kikuyu has got the highest number of members, isn't it? So it would make sense to have more delegates in Kikuyu, isn't it? Now the number is 162. If we experience some, let me not call it abnormal. If we experience fantastic growth in, let's say, Dagoretti, okay? Suddenly Dagoretti have just mobilized members and they are active. Until now, they are having as many members as Kikuyu. Remember, we've capped the number at 162, isn't it? It means for every delegate we are going to add one zone, another zone must do what? Must lose, isn't it? This is bringing the idea of competition amongst yourselves. If you want to have many delegates, make sure you are able to recruit many active members. So, that distribution of the 162, the board is going to be sharing with us based on our statistics every year that this is what is happening. Hawa wameongezeka, kwa hivyo wakati huu watu wa Kikuyu ama watu wa Wangige mkiona mmenyang'anywa si ati kwa sababu siasa imekuwa mbaya. There will be a basis why your delegates have done what? Has shifted downwards, okay? There was a question about conveyance of resolutions. Mtakuwa mkiketi kwa zonal meeting, mnazungumza, mnakubaliana. Remember, the zone is going to have a chairperson, a vice, and a secretary. They will be bringing their resolutions to us in the delegates meeting. In fact, kila ADM, zone chairman atasimama aseme, sisi kama watu wa Wangige, these are our resolutions. Sisi kama watu wa Nderi, these are our resolutions. Sisi kama watu wa Dagoretti, these are our zitakuwa zinafikia the delegates. Removal of board. Sikuzungumzia because it was not an aspect of the bylaw review. I was focusing on the sections where there are changes. But because you ask, pale kwa board pia, kuingia ni either amechaguliwa ama amekuwa co-opted. Njia za kutoka ni mingi, ni kama 7. Ya kwanza, members wanaweza sema huyu jamaa tumtaki. Afanye nini? Akwende. Ya pili, tunaweza badilisha eligibility criteria, alafu wakati wa uchaguzi inafika na haja timiza, sivyo? Ya tatu, SASRA inaweza suspend huyu jamaa kutoka kwa board. Because the authority might say, this person is not making decisions in the best interest of the SACCO, isn't it? So, SASRA will suspend, and then the delegates meeting will confirm the removal. There are some people who have come here from the office of the commissioner. Ogopa hawa watu. Kwa sababu commissioner akisema tembea, hiyo ni one way umeenda. Those are 4, si ndio? 5, mtu anaweza jitoa. Aseme, hii mzigo imekuwa mzito kidogo, mimi sioni kama nitaweza. 6, you can be called to be with the Lord, and that means automatically you leave. 7, a simple majority of board members can suspend one of themselves. Sasa akisuspendiwa, AGM itafanya nini? Delegates meeting ita confirm kama aende ama abaki. But that was not a subject of the review because those are already quite elaborately captured within the document. So you will see at I'm avoiding. I was restricting myself to the areas. By the way, tukisema tunazungumzia bylaw, hii ni kitu ya siku 3. Okay? Bwana Daniel. So what happens if we have a situation whereby we have a new zone? Okay? There's a process for you starting a new zone. Kwa mfano, tuseme mnataka kufungua branch ya Naivasha. Kitu ya kwanza mtafanya ni kuanza kurecruit watu ambao wako wapi? Naivasha, sivyo? Mkiona wamekuwa wengi, you might decide sasa tukue na satellite office itusaidie na mambo ya kuwasiliana na hao watu. So we are still not giving them delegates, we just have a way that we are operating with them, isn't it? Then one day they might become many and they say, hey, tumekuwa wengi lakini we feel like we are not, sauti yetu haifikii mahali kule ambapo huwa mnafanya nini? Where you make decisions. And so at that point we will say, now because you are so many, we are giving you so many delegates. Okay? That decision will be made here. Because remember, we have capped the number of delegates in our bylaw to 162. So that day we might decide, okay, now we can add the number of delegates to 180. It does not mean that we have given Naivasha 18 delegates. It means now, based on the membership in Naivasha, tutapiga hiyo formula ya kufanya nini? Kudistribute, tuone inaenda namna gani na tuambia, okay, tumeongeza delegates wamefika 180, kulingana na numbers yenyu, nyinyi mnaweza pata delegates wa 7. So, siku ya uchaguzi, mnapata wasa. But you see, as all these things are happening, somebody is a member. So it is possible 2 years we'll have done what? We'll have passed. All right? With regard to supervisory committee, if you look at the bylaws with regard to the qualifications for a member of the supervisory committee, their qualifications are exactly the same as the qualifications for an ordinary board member. So when we say that we need somebody to have some IT, basic IT kidogo, hata kwa supervisory, it also carries. But it's a good point you make, because where the world is moving, there are some things that we have to get comfortable with. There are some changes that we have to start adopting, particularly if we want to be a vibrant and efficient SACCO. Sawa? I think those are the... I hope I've answered them adequately. Thank you. So, do Gen Z qualify to be members? Niliwaambia. Yes, let me speak to you now officially, dear Gen Z. You do qualify to be a member. The eligibility criteria, we've said that as long as you're over the age of 25, you have saved over 200,000 Kenya shillings, you have raised your share capital to over 20,000 Kenya shillings, and you meet the rest of the eligibility criteria, you do qualify. So, yes, pia wewe unaweza kuja kuwa delegate, and also you can be a director. Just make sure you work hard to meet the eligibility criteria. Ni hayo tu. Ukishaingia upande huu mwingine sasa jitetee. But dear Gen Z, I want to appeal to you. Recruit your colleagues, because this SACCO is not for old people only. It is for everybody. And the way SACCOs operate is about having many people. You see, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with people. Carry people with you. So we encourage you to join. We encourage you to recruit. We encourage you to be part of this journey. These people who we have here, who are of the most senior demographic, they didn't get to do the wonderful things they've done in life by doing it alone. Wakati utataka alone, utahitaji guarantors. Huyo jenzi mwenzako ambaye hajaingia hapa ndiye atakugarantii. So you make sure you recruit mbogi yako yote na wenzao wengine. Mmekaribishwa. Who else is remaining? Chairman, naona utanipatia marketing commission leo. Jenzis wakikuja wengi. So you're also eligible. Just follow the eligibility criteria, you will be fine.
Thank you, Bwana Eric. And there is a member who is online, a member by the name Helen, with who is commending the steps the society is taking on delegate system. It is the right way to go. Thank you, Helen, and thank you for following us online. At this juncture, I will invite our sub-county cooperative officer from the Directorate of Cooperatives in Kiambu County to take us through agenda number 2, the transition from AGM to ADM. Welcome, Bwana Duati. Asante, tupige makofi as we welcome our...
Okay, thank you for that chance. Nafikiri the facilitator has done a good job, sidio? Ametueleza kama yule mtoto nilimwambia, isn't it? And he has tried to explain everything and why the change. And I was asking myself, we are called NRS SACCO, sidio? Hii NRS ilitoka wapi? What was the name first? Yes? Detika Rural SACCO. Why did we change to NRS? Kulikuja kipindi ilikuwa inaitwa rebranding, isn't it? Such that even Duati akija Kikuyu, nifanikiwe ninunue shamba hapa wala plot, I can join NRS without associating it with, I don't know datika whether ilikuwa ni area ama ni nini. Yeah? Just in issues. Without associating myself with either ni hiyo area ama ni gani, isn't it? So NRS is more appealing to anybody. Even the facilitator. Si amesema ametoka wapi? Akiingia hata sema ati ni ya sijui ni ya kina nani. Ataiona it has a national outlook, isn't it? Na ni nyingi zilifanya hivyo. Akina SACCO, they were being called Kiabu tea growers, isn't it? Tuende akina GDC wenye wanajua Githunguri ilikuwa inaitwa aje? Githunguri Dairy and Community. So we reached a time where we had to rebrand, isn't it? And we have been told change is inevitable. Lazima tutembee na majira, isn't it? Juzi tumebadilisha the education system kutoka ile ya 844 sijui tukaja ingine. Hatusemi ati kuna shule itaachwa. So now it has reached a time for us tuwe hiyo mambo ya sasra lazima tufuate the 2023 guidelines na the circular from the commissioner's office, whereby any cooperative ama cooperative yoyote imefikisha more than 5,000 members inaenda kitu inaitwa delegate system, isn't it? Na vyenye tumeelezwa nafikiri tumeshika vizuri. So sasa yenye imebakia saa hii ni kupitisha hiyo sheria ya kwamba tunataka kwenda the delegate system, which need to be proposed and seconded for it to be recorded. Kwa sababu those minutes are the ones which are going to accompany the amended bylaws to the commissioner's office. Hapo tumeshika. So tunataka proposer na seconder ya kwamba we are migrating now from the general meeting to the delegate system. So I want a proposer and a seconder. Si tumeelewa ni vyenye tunafanya? I want a proposer and na yangu huwa mimi nasema naenda the gender way. Ile tuliambiwa tupitishe a third gender, isn't it? A lady and a gentleman, isn't it? Yes.
Yes, habari zenu.
Nzuri.
My name is Consolata Kehara, member number 4095. I propose.
That's the proposer, Madam Kehara. Seconder. Oh yeah.
Good afternoon. My names are John Jungegitao, member number 3474. Second.
Imesekodiwa na huyo member. I think you have got the name, isn't it? Do you have any contrary opinion? Ya kwanza, ya pili, ya tatu. If you had any other opinion, usiiseme na huko nje. Itakuwa nini ukiwa na huko nje? Yeah? Itakuwa ni nini na huko nje? Ni nyinyi mmesema. Nasikia hapa bere mshenezi jui nini. But what we are talking here, si tulikuwa tunaongelea hapa na tumepitisha. So now we will have a process of amending those bylaws na kuitwa now by the management to abio when we are going to go the delegate system. Sasa tumekuwa na mwaga mpya, isn't it? Mtoto akizaliwa anapeagwa nini? Cheti ya kujulikana ni Mkenya. Si ni birth certificate? Sasa tukatakuwa na birth certificate mpya ya kwamba sisi tumeadapt the delegate system. Na ninafikiri vyenye imeexplainiwa hapa na facilitator, there is no need to worry. You as a member, wewe kama member, mambo yako yote yataangaliwa, isn't it? And we have the relevant offices. Tuko na ofisi yetu, kama kuna shida yote unaweza kuja kwa hiyo ofisi. Kwa hiyo ofisi, isn't it? If your needs are not catered for, you can still come to that office. And I think I'm done with my part. Thank you.
Tumpigie makofi vizuri. Thank you, Bwana Duati. And the next step, I will invite our chair, at least to say something. Then after chair, and Joyce, you do the vote of thanks. And also, as Joyce does the vote of thanks, I will explain how we shall do our lunch. And also, Pastor Christopher, he will do the closing prayer. Welcome, Bonachia.
Thank you very much, MC. To me, this is momentous. And a beautiful people, ladies and gentlemen, Washirika, this we shall be one day proud of, that we have sat here today and see or experience a transformative journey that we have started from AGM to the AGM. What Mr. Mboro said, that this, if had been done before, we could have seen growth in branches and also membership. We sat here as members, irrespective of our positions that we hold in the SACCO. We are all members. So when we listen to the bylaw from our facilitator, we sit here and adopt it as members, not as a board, and also not as a supervisory. We shall be called into account in future as a people who saw the SACCO move to the next frontier. I thank you very much, and I wish you all the blessings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this juncture, I'll invite Madam Joyce for a vote of thanks.
This is the day that the Lord had made, and we must be glad in it. Director of Cooperatives, invited guests, fellow directors, our CEO, esteemed staff, and members, good afternoon. I wish to begin by first thanking the Almighty God for granting us this day and the opportunity to gather here together. Today marks an important milestone in the strategic growth and governance journey of our SACCO. On behalf of the board, I sincerely thank you for having the SACCO at heart and for gracing this occasion. Your presence is a clear demonstration of your commitment to the continued progress of our institution. As we look ahead, we are laying a strong foundation anchored on sound governance structures. This foundation is not only vital for accountability and transparency, but also for driving sustainable growth and safeguarding the interests of all our members. Together, through unity and shared purpose, we shall propel our SACCO to a greater height. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Joyce. Hata mimi as the MC, nimekushukuru for giving us an elaborate vote of thanks. On the next juncture, and I want to explain about what we shall do about lunch. The board has provided for lunch, but we shall do it physically on a plate, a good 5-star lunch for the members, and we shall have it as you go out. You shall get a card, then you shall present it where the lunch will be served, near the gardens. I know our operations manager, Melly, you'll show the members where to take lunch. Another thing I would also like to inform you is that because of the performance of NRS, our vice chair was elected as the chair for all cooperative societies in Kiambu County. Sizumpigie makofi. Yes, this is the chair for the cooperative societies of Kiambu County. Yes, ni vizuri tunafurahia na hawezi chagua akiona society haiendi vizuri. And the way we are putting it on the issue of delegate, this is where the power belongs to you people. It is the best way. And thank you for honoring all this process. Thank you very much. At this juncture, I will invite Pastor Christopher. Pastor Christopher is one of the members And also, Mary, get ready for the cards.
Bwana asifiwe. Nisalimieni hivi. Naitwa Christopher na nimeokoka. Yesu ni Bwana. Namfurahia kwa sababu ya wema wake. Hebu na tuombe. Mungu wa mbingu na nchi, wewe uketie kwenye kiti cha enzi mahali ambapo pameinuka, tunakushukuru alasiri ya leo, Mungu wa rehema, kwa sababu ya kuwa pamoja na sisi. Tangia tulianzia mkutano huu wa leo mpaka sasa, Mungu, tumeona mkono wako ukiwa juu yetu Baba, na ndiposa hata tunaweza kuhisi amani yako ikiwa kati yetu Baba. Tunasema ni asante Mungu wa rehema Baba, kuona tumefika kikomo. Mungu, twajikabidhi mikononi mwako, pia tukiombea Baba NRS iendelee kukua jinsi vile imekuwa na mahali ambapo kiwango imefika. Bwana, twashukuru na tunakuomba Baba ukaweze kuendeleza Mungu iweze kukua kama vile SACCO zingine zimekuwa na imeenea nchini yetu Kenya Baba. Tunaomba pia na hii NRS ikaweze kukua kwa njia hiyo na kuwa kwa kiwango hicho. Ni asante Baba kwa kila kitu na kila jambo, na yale yote ambayo tumeyanenewa Bwana tukaweze kuyaweka katika mioyoni mwetu. Tumesema ni asante kwa sababu ya mkutano huu Baba. Tunapofika mwisho, tunatamatisha Baba Mungu, tuomba baraka zako ukaweze kutubariki Baba. Tunapoondoka mahali hapa na kwenda makwetu Baba, uwe pamoja na sisi, na pia Mungu tutaweza kufurahia zaidi. Ni asante Baba kwa yote, na ni katika jina la Yesu Kristo tuomba na kuamini. Amen. Naambiwa ya kwamba nimesahau chakula. Wacha pia niombe chakula. Baba, twasema ni asante kwa sababu pia kuna mankuli yenye imetayarishwa saa hii Bwana. Baba, ikawe njema kwa miili yetu Bwana. Baba, tukikula Baba ikaweze kuwa njema kwa miili yetu Bwana. Ni asante kwa sababu wale ambao wamepika, na sisi zote Bwana tutashukuru Bwana. Tukikula tuende nyumbani tukiwa tumeshiba na tukiwa na nguvu kwa mwili, na ni katika jina la Yesu Kristo tuomba na kuamini. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you very much. And because we are on marketing, it is also good to members who join such that the society is able to grow. And also, we shall have our ICT. They are out. If you feel that you can get an interview of what NRS has taken you through your journey, at least ataku interview, such that you're able to do a documentary on the progress of the institution. Thank you very much. Mary, operations manager, uanze kupe members card, and also somebody to show them